I don't try to make it complicated. In fact, I try to make it so simple. My goal is not to become famous. My goal is not to sound complicated. My goal is not to confuse you. My goal is to explain to you what I've learned in such an easy way that you will actually understand it with your guts, even if you don't have scientific brain. So I divide all this information that I have to share in very simple pieces. And I would like to start with a very basic question, is what is life? Are you alive?
Yes.
How do you know that you're alive? You say because you're moving, but there are mechanical toys that are moving. So why do you know that you're alive? Can you think, forget about the books you read, just think for yourself and tell me, why do you think you're alive?
Because I can breathe.
Because you can breathe? Well, the vacuum cleaner is breathing too. Love, you feel love, that's very, very nice.
I have intuition.
You have intuition?
Smile every day.
A smile every day? There are smiling toys there. So why do we know we're alive? And where is life in your body? When you show that you're alive, where is exactly life in your body? Is it just in your nose, or in your head, or in your fingers, or in the parts that are moving? Can you ask yourself, every single person, where is life in your body? Everywhere? Where everywhere? Well, did you read about this in a scientific book, or this is how you feel? What is that that's pouring from our eyes, which they say it's the windows of soul? Why is that sometimes it is uncomfortable to look in somebody's eyes? And you can take a doll and look in doll's eyes for hours, you wouldn't feel no discomfort. But when you're looking in people's eyes, you definitely experience something, and sometimes it could be very, very dramatic. And you met a friend who you didn't see for a long time. Actually, you didn't want to see that friend, and you glanced at him and you just turned away because you didn't want him to notice that you glanced at him. But then he knows that, you know that he saw you right away. How do you know? And you can stand on the other side of the football field, and I look in your pupils and you look in mine. The pupils are as small as letters in the book. If I place the book on the other side of the football field, can you read the book? No. How do you know exactly that I'm looking right at you there? How do you know that I'm looking right at you? That's life in us. So what do you think? Is life important? Yes. Whatever has life in it is called living things, living matter. Whatever doesn't have life in it still has some vibration, but we call it non-living matter. I don't want to use the word dead matter, but not life. We've made out of life, and so we need life for us to keep being alive. And every single cell out of 35 trillion cells in our body has life in it. Actually, in Toronto at the Total Health, I took a picture of my entire body by using advanced Kirlian photography, and I figured out that my energy is actually bigger than me. It's just like this. And so this is all life in me. So every cell in our body has life in it. Now, in the soil we have pieces of rocks and pieces of matter that is not alive. And then there is a layer of soil, and then there are plants. There are beautiful plants that have roots, and the roots reach for those pieces like calcium and nitrogen and silicon and iron. So they grab those pieces of minerals, and then they pull them, they suck them inside, and now as soon as it goes above the surface, then the sunshine touches it with its rays, and what scientists call photosynthesis happens. Well, I think it's a miracle of life happens when sun touches these minerals in this plants. This mineral instantly becomes alive. The birth happens. The birth. It's like ejaculation, you know, just like this mineral that used to be dead and useless becomes alive. If you would be able to eat those minerals, that would be wonderful. But you cannot eat them. When you have osteoporosis, doctor cannot tell you, hey, go, get some marble in the mountains and crush it in your Vitamix blender and just begin eating it, and you'll have lots of calcium. No, you'll just have kidney stones, nothing else. So, but the kingdom of plants can do this for us. They transfer that into something our body could recognize. Now, in this plant we have the same minerals, calcium and iron and silicon and you name it, magnesium, but then these ones have life in them and our body could recognize them. When they get inside of our body, here you have a bone from your body which has lots of calcium, but somewhere there's no calcium. And so this bone needs desperately some calcium. And then when you're eating that plant, that calcium, when it gets with the flow of your blood to your body can talk to it the same language. Think for a moment what has to happen in your body so that piece of plant has to become part of your bone. First of all, how will this calcium know where to go? Like you came to this church, there was a sign, you have to go into this room. How does this know? It doesn't have no brain. It doesn't have, we think, no intellect. How does this piece of calcium know to become part of your bone? Because it speaks the same language. Because they have the same vibration that they recognize. It's like living creatures. It's like little humans, like little people. It's amazing. So whenever you need calcium somewhere and you eat high quality calcium there and it's live calcium, you rest assured that calcium will come directly when it's necessary most. Isn't that a miracle? That's a miracle. Now imagine that this napkin has lots of calcium in it because it's made from the wood. It does. Only it's not live calcium. Do you think that if I'll put this napkin in there, in this hole in the bone, it could take the space of the calcium? Will it be able to talk the same language? No. When you open the door and your neighbors, your family, people who you know come to you, you say, oh, hi, come on in, right? And then suddenly there will be a stranger who doesn't speak your language, who is dressed differently than you. You don't recognize him. Who are you? Will you let him in? Answer. Will you let him in? You say, oh, come on in, be my guest. No. Somebody who looks very strange and very different, you will say, hey, I'll call police. Get out of here. That's what your body does when you get in some not alive matter. So your body treats it as toxins. And now what do we beautiful humans so smart do? We grow precious organic fruits and vegetables, and then we take them and put them in a pot and boil and kill this life in them, and then we put it in our body and we believe that it's going to work just the same. Do you comprehend what I'm saying? Does it make sense? I think it's pretty simple, that it's not the same. God, nature, universe created this order that things are there and there are so many of them, and then there are lots of plants covering the whole land except asphalt where we placed it. Right? And then these plants are working for us. We don't have to pay for that. It's free. They just grab in those pieces of minerals and then they expose it to the sun and then they turn them into live elements that are vibrating with the same frequency, which is actually 12 megahertz per minute, per second, just like our body. And so then we consume those fresh, crispy, whatever, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, and our body has everything it needs, abundance. And then we die, we go back in the soil, and then there are more elements, and it's just like a circle of life. Okay? But we have created now different things. So this is just some basics about why raw food is so good, why it works, why it's better. It's something just to understand, because when I read the first book about enzymes, I had to use vocabulary like every 5 minutes. It was so complicated. Okay. Now the law of vital adjustment is very important. Every living thing is constantly adjusting to the environment. Every living thing is changing every moment according to the environment. That's why the frog has the color of the pond. That's why the snake has the color of what? Desert. And the hair, the rabbits in Canada change their fur twice a year. They're so fashionable. They go to such extent they shed twice a year to change the color of the fur, which takes lots of effort. Why they do that? Why do they do that? For what reason? For what reason? To survive. To survive. So the living thing's body is dedicated for you to survive. Your body is dedicated and it's changing constantly. If you're telling me that you're alive, then it means your body is changing constantly. Dr. Claude Bernard in France in beginning of last century, he made this experiment. He took the glass bell and he placed a live bird under this bell, and the bird survived for 4 hours, and then the bird died from lack of oxygen. Okay? He took another bird, 4 hours, and birds died from lack of oxygen. And then, listen attentively, he changed this experiment. He took fresh bird, just exactly the same, and after 1 hour, without changing the content of oxygen, he exchanged those birds. He replaced this bird with the fresh one. If you were listening attentively, how many hours this bird had to live there? Everybody answer, please. Did you understand? Do you want me to repeat? Okay. This one would stay for, but after 1 hour he replaced it with a fresh bird. How long did this bird have to live? This bird dropped dead. He said, wow, it dropped dead. Can you think for a moment and make a discovery why this bird dropped dead?
He wasn't adjusted.
Because this bird was not adjusted for the lack of oxygen. That is why if somebody's drinking 2 cups of vodka every day, back in Russia they do it like normally, then they say, well, look at us, we're so strong Russian men. When Americans come, they just drink 2 shots and they just under the table. Look, they're wimps. Is that true? No, their body's adjusted to drinking vodka. What does it mean, adjusted? Adjusted means with the less toxins, with the less negative effect. Adjusted. That's why smokers, they're adjusted to smoking. They could smoke 2-3 packs of cigarettes a day, when the first cigarette is the most toxic in their life. Did you know that? And sometimes the second smoke is more toxic to those people around and to the smoker, because their body is completely covered with the mucus inside the lungs, and their blood, the heartbeat goes twice as fast, so the blood comes to the heart. So their body is adjusted so they could still live as long as it's possible. The body changes. That's why those who drink coffee, their body is adjusted to coffee. And we don't know everything what body does to adjust. We only know that when you drink coffee every morning, your body creates, let us call it anti-caffeine, some substance that lowers your blood pressure. The substance that neutralizes the caffeine, anti-caffeine. And one day you decided you're going to quit. Or maybe you just ran out of coffee, or maybe you didn't have time and you didn't drink coffee. You know what happens? Your blood pressure becomes so low you have headache. How many of you practiced and had this once in your life? Okay, you know that you'll have headache. And the only thing that's going to help is a little bit of caffeine, either black tea or coffee. Sooner or later you have it. But then if you continue not to drink coffee, 3 days, 4 days, then your body does what? Adjusts to not drinking coffee. And then how many of you quit drinking coffee? Just fine. Yeah, just 3-4 days and no headache. So your body is constantly adjusting. Now how does the body adjust to cooked food? The body has to adjust to cooked food. At what age? Somewhere at 6 months old, the body has to adjust. We don't know everything that body does, but I know two things. First of all, body creates the mucoid plug, which is a mucous lining, which is goes along the entire digestive tract, which is 55 feet long. 55 feet long. It's like a rubbery hose. It's a black color that covers, or maybe dark green color, covers the entire digestive tract. There is a Rise and Shine cleanse created by Dr. Richard Anderson. When people take this cleanse for a month, they pass 55 feet long rubbery hose. How many of you heard of that? Yeah, maybe even did it. Well, the good news is when you go on raw food, it dissolves and you don't even have to do the cleanse. Isn't it good? Well, don't think that you need to get rid of that because it's yucky stuff and you don't want it there. Because it is what? It is your protection from absorption of toxins from cooked food. Your body is really doing a great thing to protect you from cooked food. I couldn't understand in the beginning when I went on raw food. And we've, almost 10 years ago, January 21st, and then on my birthday, July 25, we decided to celebrate being 6 months 100% raw. Being a good girl and good boy, me and my husband went to Red Lobster to celebrate. And I told in the beginning, it was just everything was good and food was so good. I said, Igor, it's going to be my best birthday ever. But before long, we started to feel so sick, and I felt cramps in my jaw, and all my inside was hurting, and he was hurting too. And next morning, we were just out of shape. And I was thinking, why in the world I feel so bad? I'm supposed to become younger from raw food. 6 months ago, I was able to eat the whole pizza by myself, and I didn't hurt that much. And now raw food made me hurt. I thought, well, raw food is not really as good. Now I understand is because my body readjusted. Then I started to think, well, if cooked food is so bad, why not everybody else is dying from eating that Red Lobster every day? They're supposed to be, according to my calculation, dead long time ago. And I see my neighbor barbecuing every evening and drinking a case of beer, and he has pink chicks and sometimes have good mood. And I was asking those questions and I didn't comprehend what's going on. Now I understand. His body adjusted. Well, of course, at the age of 40, we begin to fall apart. Unless you really do something in your life different. We begin to need glasses, our hair suddenly, we need to dye hair, and then we just begin to get old. All kinds of pills, all kinds of doctors, antidepressants, glasses, and whatever, vitamins. But other than that, the body is dedicated and devoted for your well-being. 10 years ago, I was very unhappy with my body. I was talking to myself, I was thinking, why do I feel so, why am I so unlucky? Why did I get such a poor body? Did you see my picture 10 years ago? How many of you seen that? Yeah, you have to look at that. Then you realize that I'm really cute. Today. Because then, well, it's in this book. I'm afraid to come closer to that because it's going to squeak. The Raw Family book, there is my picture. It's one of my best pictures because the bad pictures I destroyed on the spot. And even so, 120 pounds bigger than now and really, really ugly. And I was thinking, why did I get such an ugly, smelly body? And that any time I eat a little bit, I'll gain weight. All my girlfriends eat pizzas and cakes and they don't gain weight, and I gain right away, and I have pimples and headaches and all kinds of pain in my body and dysfunctions and depression. And then something happened. I didn't go to the store. I didn't go to Big Carrot and didn't buy myself a new body. This is the same body. Do you understand that this is the same body? But I like it so much now. I love it. I love this body. It has so much energy and it always is working for me. It's always doing such a good job for me. You cannot imagine how much I work these days. My friends think it's insane. Average, I drive 300 miles a day, and every single day I teach a big class. And then I have family, I publish books, and sometimes I sleep for 4 or 5 hours per night, weeks and weeks. I cannot imagine. I never get sick. I don't have health insurance. I don't have any gray hair. My eyes are 20/10. It's the same body. So who changed? What changed? My behavior changed. My behavior. So that means that even 20 years ago, my body was eager to change. Do you understand that? That my body was eager. Even 30 years ago, it was so eager to be healthy and cute. But who was on the way? What was on the way? My behavior. My body could not overcome the behavior that I performed. That means that your body is really devoted to you being very healthy and very beautiful and very happy. It's dedicated. Do you believe me? Who is on the way? What is on the way? You and your behavior. When you were born, you were all so cute babies. Remember your albums? Have you seen them? You were just so precious. And then you behaved certain way, you did certain things, and you started to become less cute and less cute and less cute. Do you think that you can continue do what you're doing and add some supplements and pills and tablets on top of it and experience difference, change? Tell me. No, you have to change your behavior. But you need to know how to change it. And I strongly believe that we need to change it towards natural, because there is an order in nature. And I see that the closer I go there, the better my body serves me. Unfortunately, we have been conditioned in a certain way. This program, scientifically based, has been placed in our head, and it's so hard for us to get away from that program. It's just sitting there, and we're like hypnotized. Whatever doesn't sound like that program, we reject. So let us try today, forget about that program and be very radical. Let us be our radical day and think for ourselves and see clearly. Clearly means have your own opinion, your own point of view, what's going on, and maybe we'll discover a totally different thing, and it will be now so easy for you to know what to do to feel better. Do you want to feel better?
Yes.
Only half people want to feel better? Do you want to feel better?
Yes.
So what do you need to do? Change behavior. And wonderful, so you want to know how to change behavior. Let's see. The law of vital adjustment works whether you know about this or not. There are human laws and there are universal laws. The human laws, you can break and get away with it. Like you can speed 5 miles faster and policemen wouldn't see you. I don't say that you have to do, but it's possible. You can hide from IRS $10. That's possible. But universal laws, no matter how much you hide in your cupboards, no matter how you wrap your wraps from candy and don't show anybody, the universal laws, they work no matter who sees you or not, and they're gonna hurt you if you deserve it. That's the universal laws. You cannot really escape. So how does it work? When we're born, we have this beautiful body, and we have lungs, very beautiful organ for breathing. And many people think that to breathe is just to get air in lungs and that's enough. Is it just enough when you breathe just to get your air in lungs, in and out, in and out? No, what's necessary? That it's necessary that your body do that your body takes out of lungs this air and somehow get it to empty every one of 35 trillion cells every moment, and then collect it back and brings it to lungs. Do you think it's pretty hard job? Wow, it's 24 hours a day. That's lungs, okay? Now when we're born, we have clean lungs, empty, beautiful, the color of lips inside, the light pink color. And then when we begin to eat cooked food, then the whole picture changes. When we begin to eat cooked food, it usually involves dairy and cooked carbohydrates. Those are the most mucus-forming foods. Then the body begins to create mucus in order to grab infection or dust or anything, grab it together. And so the mucus begins to accumulate in lungs. So baby is 6 months old. Have you seen babies who just breathe like this? Have you heard babies like this? If you see any babies around, put your ear to their chest and listen. They have already mucus in their bronchs, in the trachea, in the throat, in the lungs, and poor children, they will have to go through cleanse. How does it happen? When there is a chance, the body will try to throw it out. What is the chance? What is the chance? What is the chance? It's when the body is very energetic, when the body has extra energy. When does it happen? On vacation! When the baby was swimming in the ocean, was sleeping outside, eating lots of fruit, has lots of energy, and was walking along the beach, we blame it on the wet hair. Say, I told you don't stay too long in the ocean. No, that's because there is extra energy, and then the body decides, hey, I think I could do it now. When sometimes you rest, you look at your house, you say, oh, I think I'm going to do a cleanup. Now I have enough energy. So that's how the body does. They say, the body doesn't like that mucus in the body. It doesn't like it in lungs. Lungs are supposed to breathe, not to have this mucus there. And so the body begins to move this mucus. And the baby has runny nose. Tell me honestly, do you appreciate that? When the body throws away, do you appreciate that honestly? Always you say, oh, how good, it's working. Oh, my precious baby, its body is so wonderful, it's getting mucus out. No. In some countries, I've been to Bahamas, Jamaica, Costa Rica, I've seen Russian gypsy children, they always have runny nose. And their parents, I was so annoyed by them, they never pay no attention. I said, what barbers? They don't pay no attention to children having runny nose. In our civilized world, we wipe it out. We take it to a doctor, and the doctor prescribes nose drops. What is nose drops? Is it something so valuable that you'll pour it on your salad? Something you'll feed your baby with a spoon as much as you can because the baby nose drops deficient, or what? And what is that? And why we agree to let doctors do that to our babies? Do we really not care? Okay, what does the nose drops do? They distract the attention of the body. They create a habit, and the body says, hey, forget about the lungs. That could wait another year. Let's take care of taking out the nose drops out of the body, because it's going to stay there as toxin forever. So let's take it now. And so no nose drop, no runny nose. And then we give flowers to the doctor. Say, thank you, doctor, it worked. He doesn't have runny nose. We don't understand. We have this program that's normal, not to have runny nose. Now, in lungs, we have mucus accumulating there. Then the baby will have white, pale color of the skin because mucus will be transported to the layer under the skin. Now the baby will kind of have it in sinuses now and in the forehead, and the baby will become irritable. Have you seen those babies who are so kind of pale and pastry, and they really kind of irritated there? They have so much mucus. One day the body will put together all efforts and create high fever. Do we celebrate when we have high fever? High fever is a good thing. The body puts a great effort in creating high fever. Do you know why the body does high fever? Because at high fever, the enzymes in the body, those are catalysts of energy, they work twice as fast. It's like you have double amount of enzymes. It's so beneficial. all the bacteria, the bad and pathogenic bacteria, is destroyed at high fever. Now, when body has high fever, it says, hey, don't eat, please. Eating will take so much more energy from me. And the body creates no eating condition, no appetite condition. It covers the tongue with the white coating that makes the food not tasty. Do you remember that? The nose is stuffed so you cannot smell the food. The eyelids are so heavy and so painful that you cannot see the food. Body wants you to close your eyes and rest. The tonsils are so enlarged that you cannot swallow the food. Do we cooperate with the body? Do we listen? When the body says, please don't eat anything, even an apple, here comes grandmother with the chicken soup. It's in America. In Russia, grandmother comes with the boiled milk with butter and honey in it. In Europe, they come with a hot wine or something. So in every country they have, I don't know what they come up with different countries. I think we could have a contest here and everybody will be telling what people treat their loved ones when they have high fever. They're usually very heavy, toxic stuff. So what the body reaction will be to that chicken soup? Thrown up? The body says, oh no, oh please. What if body doesn't have that spare energy to throw up? Then the complication will happen. The complications. Have you heard of complications when people have high fever? They say that happens because of high fever, the complications. Actually, complications happen because people eat when they have high fever. And they say high fever is so dangerous. You have to put it down, otherwise you could die. No. You cannot die from high fever. You can die if you don't cooperate with your body, if you do something opposite what your body wants. Now, we don't listen to the body. For example, do you remember when you had high fever? You were feeling cold, hot, fluctuating, cold, hot. So you'll take off your covers, you put on the covers you put. Do you remember that? You remember that? So your children feel the same way because the body, when it wants to regulate certain level of temperature, and it lets you know. It's very friendly. It says, I'm hot, uncover. Now I'm cold, I'm shivering, cover back. When we have children in bed, they say, Mom, I'm hot. We say, no, honey, you have to keep the covers on. We force them, and then they develop seizures. Because they become too hot, body begins to try to get covers off. What's wrong with the covers? They just don't come, so big body develops seizures. My son, when he was 1 year old, he once had seizures when he had high fever. And I called ambulance and they said, oh, this is a sign of meningitis. We're going to come and give him prednisolone shot. And I called my pediatrician, and she was a very old woman, 60 years. She was ready to go on retirement, and I was so lucky. She called me, she said, Victoria, do you have too many blankets on your son? I said, yeah, I have 3 thick blankets. She said, instantly put him in a lukewarm shower. Put him on your lap so he doesn't get scared of cold water. So I did, and his seizures stopped. When the ambulance came, they were so angry at me. They said, let's give him shot anyways, since we came. So what do we do when somebody has high fever? We treat him with aspirin, salicylic acid. You know, salicylic acid is a toxic poison. The witches in the 15th century, they were using it to poison people to death. The salicylic acid. And you know how bad it is for your body, your precious body that is dedicated to you, devoted? So we treat it with aspirin. This aspirin stays in your body, almost impossible to get it out. Stays in your body for the rest of your life, and as a result of that, you cannot develop high fever anymore. Just remember, when you were 5 years old or 4 years old, you had very high, good quality fever. If you were treated with aspirin, since then you never had high fever anymore. You had low fever. Your body cannot go any further because it's like chains on your body's organs. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is it true that when you had high fever, you treated with aspirin, you cannot have high fever anymore? Do you remember that? Anybody? Right? Yes. The good news is that if you go on raw food, the aspirin will leave your body, and your body will become normal, and you'll get your high fever back. everybody in my family had high fever. It was wonderful because, you know why it was wonderful? Because when I was treated, when I had high fever when I was a child, it usually would take a week, sometimes longer. And then I would feel weak long time after that. They wouldn't even let me go to the gym. Now when we were on raw food diet and I had fever, it only lasted 6 hours. Because I was cooperating with the body. I stopped eating right away. I gave myself an enema. I stayed in bed. I took cold showers when I felt too hot or something. And within 6 hours, you know what happened? I felt better than before. The high fever only lasted as long as it needed to last. Can you guess what's my favorite animal? My favorite animal in the world is bacteria. I'm dedicated to research and support and whatever it takes, promotion of bacteria, because we totally misguided and misunderstanding what is this all about. Bacteria's job is to recycle on that planet, I think. Recycling. Bacteria can recycle something that none of us, none of you, none of me could recycle. It recycles dead living things back into the soil. Can any of you recycle dead mouse into the soil without bacteria? You can recycle plastic into plastic. I can recycle paper into paper. But nobody could recycle anything living, dead living thing into the soil, because that's bacteria's job. That's what it is. And it's very important because without bacteria, we won't have any soil. And without soil, we cannot live. We cannot live on that planet. Do you agree with that? Yeah. So it's very important to have soil. Why do we need soil? Because we grow things. We grow our food. Our most important food grows from the soil. Well, whoever created bacteria, the creator, was genius and brilliant, because bacteria is small and large, or we could say smallest and largest at the same time. Isn't it amazing? Bacteria is smaller than any living cell, and it will get inside your body without causing any disturbance. And it doesn't even need a couple to multiply. And bacteria could multiply to any size instantly. Isn't it great? Doesn't matter if there will be 10 chickens or 1,000 of elephants, there will always be enough bacteria instantly. Or maybe the elephants will be waiting 7 days per elephant, and then those will be laying there untouched, not rotting, waiting when there will be enough bacteria. Have you heard of anything like that? There will be always plenty of bacteria. And then when the protein will be over, there will not be bacteria wandering around. They will go back in the soil and wait there patiently. Great. Another interesting thing I discovered, that bacteria can never destroy anything that is still alive. Bacteria is not interested into living things. Example, redwood trees. How long do they live? They live up to 3,000 years. Their roots are in the soil, covered with bacteria, unprotected, never rot, until the tree dies. 3,000 years. Some of those were planted before Jesus Christ was born. And bacteria doesn't dare to touch them. What does it tell us? That bacteria is not really interested in human flesh. How did it happen that we became so afraid of bacteria? I imagine that one day Louis Pasteur got for birthday a little telescope or something, microscope, and he was just playing with it thinking, what should I do with it? And then he figured out, I'm going to make some research. It was a long time ago. So he took some healthy tissue and some sick tissue, and he just looked in his microscope, and wow, he noticed that in the sick tissue there are some kind of rods and some hooks, some kind of bugs moving. And he decided instantly, wow, this is them who cause sickness. Well, how logic is that? Have you ever seen the fire? Have you ever seen fire in your life? Yes. Was the fire truck next to it? Have the fire truck been there? Always? I bet they caused the fire. Wherever I go, folks, there is fire. The fire truck is right next to it. I bet fire trucks cause the fire because they're always where the fire is. When Louis Pasteur expressed that, certain people benefited monetarily right away from creating that kind of fear. And they started to plant this fear in everybody's heads. And if people even didn't believe in that, they thought, what if? I don't want to take a chance when talking about my baby. Ooh. And they started to take certain precautions. On the deathbed, Louis Pasteur said, hey, somebody, come to me with a notebook and a pen. I have something important to disclose. And he said, I was wrong. I was mistaken. It's not bacteria that causes disease. It is the disease that attracts bacteria. And you know what? That's been protocoled and that's been published. But the fear already has been planted. And the fear is so hard to get out of the brain. Because when it's fear, it paralyzes us. It directs us into different direction. And we cannot really just trust. We cannot just say, hey. And where did it go? It went now so far away. Today we're totally confused. Today we don't see the real enemy. But we're still afraid of bacteria. So let me be brave and bring some light to that matter. Today we confused bacteria and chemicals. We're not afraid of chemicals. We're paranoid, afraid of bacteria. I am afraid of chemicals. And I have another question for you. Do you think bacteria, when it's rotten, smells bad? Do you think it smells bad? Well, honestly, what do you think? It smells bad? Please answer.
Yes.
Have you been to the forest?
Yes.
Does it smell bad in the forest?
No.
Does anybody rake leaves in the forest every fall?
No.
Are there any bathrooms in the forest?
No.
Are there any cemeteries in the forest? So all these millions of animals die right there, and birds and snakes and insects and all of those moles and mooses and everybody die there, and nobody rakes leaves and nobody goes to the bathroom. Everybody's just doing it, and mooses and everyone just right there, and it still smells good because the rotten actually doesn't smell very bad. It actually smells like sour. Okay? Or just, it's like sweet. Where does it smell bad? It smells bad in the civilization. Why does it smell bad? I started to brainstorm and I started to make research and I figured out in 1800 humans took crude oil and they divided it into about 80 chemicals. Until then, everything that existed on this planet was created by Creator, by universe, by whatever you believe it, by nature. It was all natural. And it was all biodegradable. Do you agree with that? And then we took crude oil and we divided it into about 80 different chemicals. Today, just from crude oil, we make 83,000 chemicals. 83,000 different names that are not biodegradable, that cannot be recycled by bacteria, that cannot be anyhow go back into soil and become part of the earth, that we use, that we absolutely need in our life. And poor bacteria, when it's so dedicated and it tries to recycle this unrecyclable stuff like styrofoam, glass, plastic, metal, you name it, it mutates. It mutates. The precious, just normal, good bacteria mutates and it turns into a totally different one, which is very pathogenic bacteria. So who creates pathogenic bacteria? By millions, by zillions. Us, when we enjoy this civilization. Now I want to ask you, how many chemicals do you have under your sink in your house? Just one? Maybe just two? Many. Where do all these chemicals go after we use them? Where do they all go? Don't we know that everything is connected on this planet? Recently they took the blood test from a newborn polar bear near the polar circle, and they found 62 chemicals into newborn blood of polar bear. Where did they come from? Nobody went and sprayed there. How many our newborn babies have when we live right here? Now, the soap. That's a big issue, the soap. They say you have to wash your hands with the soap. So what is soap, what it does? Can you imagine how brave I have to be in order to discuss that in front of people? Well, first let me tell you, I didn't wash my body with soap for 6 years now. Never, even once, for 6 years. Okay? And I don't smell. Well, rarely I wash my hands with a soap, and I'll tell you why. I did research, and God bless the internet. I went into internet and I found an article dated 1812 in Russian magazine. It said, Eureka, French people created rose water. In 1812, create rose water. That was the first predecessor of soap. It was just the water, a few drops of rose in it. That's the first soap. What was the reason? The reason was not to antibacterial. The reason was to smell good. And then they started to develop, but some people figure out when you plant fear in somebody's head, they will buy much more. They will buy it for every family. I went ahead and I read how the Tsar family were washing their linens. They would take their linens to the Moskva River, and they would choose the nice-looking girls, and they will make them beat these linens or put lots of clay on linens and sheets. And they'll beat them with round sticks and sing. They had to sing a love song loudly. And then maybe they do it for an hour, then they wash it in the river and then hand out to wind dry, and that's the Tsar will sleep on that. No bleach, no chemicals. So if you ever sleep on things like that, you sleep like a Tsar. There are several very wonderful books right now published about natural bacteria that we all have, as all living things have. If you don't use soap, then you have very good bacteria covering your entire body. That's protective bacteria, like acidophilus, bifidum, like good bacteria, very healthy. It's healthy to have this bacteria because this bacteria is there on guard and it will not let any pathogenic bacteria get inside your body. You don't want pathogenic bacteria get inside. But the best protection is your own good bacteria that covers your body. The soap instantly destroys it, opens the gates, and you cannot stop it because you never know. Now we're so afraid of bathrooms, and I've seen women doing that. They go around and just doing that. Now can you tell me what's the difference between bathroom door and the handle on the cart in the store and the door, any handle of any door in the church, in the store, in your house, in hotel, in a restaurant? Is there any difference? I would think the only difference is the door in the bathroom has more chemicals on it. How do I wash my hands? I just wash them for a long time in lots of water. I read how people washed their hands before they had soap, before they invented soap. They were washing it with dirt, with clay, with sand. In India, they wash it with ash. And in different countries, clay. And I tried to even wash my hair and my body with the dirt when I was in the wilderness. You know, my family lived for 6 months in the wilderness. And it was the best, but it will clog the sink, so I cannot do it at home. So whenever I wash my hands, I make sure I wash it long time. If I want to conserve water, I'll put it in the bowl, and like in old times, I wash it long time in the bowl. And I feel that my hands are very clean. And I love my hands. They're so soft. And just I can feel a lot with my hands. Okay, now you'll say, Victoria, we're afraid of disease. I believe that when you stay raw, the bacteria and parasites will leave your body. as they did leave my body and my children's body and my husband's body, because we did tests on parasites. Actually, I'm going to publish the test, our test, that we don't have no parasites. We don't have no sign of parasites. And before, when we went on when we were eating cooked food, we did Hilda Clark 10-day cleanse. We went to Hannah Kruger and we bought all these things and we did 10-day parasite cleanse, and including our dog and cat, and we still have parasites. After 10 days, we still have parasites. And now, after so many years eating raw food, we don't have parasites. Not only parasites, mosquitoes don't bite us. We went to Minnesota, where mosquito is a state bird. They have so many mosquitoes, all kinds of mosquitoes, and we spent so many days in boundary waters, and none of us had even a single bite. And then I talked to hunters. I tried to get any information I can because it makes total sense for me, but it's so hard to explain to others. So I went and I spoke to hunters. I said, tell me about parasites in animals. And they all told me the same thing. They say, if we go 6 hours deep in the forest and we kill elk, deer, any animal there, we open it up, there's no parasites in that animal. If we go 1 hour in the forest, the deer who still eats from our lawns that we spray, the deer that eats from our dumpsters, they have parasites in the brain, parasites in the heart, parasites in the liver, parasites in the intestines. Now, I don't believe that parasites are eating our body. They just, why? What are they doing there? They're scavengers. They're not eating your liver. They just stay in your liver because that's where we have toxins. They're sitting there eating toxins. Well, they have their own waste, of course, but when you don't have any leftovers, they will just leave with the, excuse my language, with the first train. They'll leave out. Okay? Take the mushroom parasite. It only could grow on a stump or on a dying tree, on an old tree. You cannot imagine, beautiful, you just plant a new tree in your garden or in your backyard and it will have mushroom? No. The parasites could only live on something that already half decayed. And mistletoe, they only grow along the highway, on the trees that are so weakened by highway, or in the dump area where trees are half suffocated. The healthy trees, when they thinned and they really have enough sunshine, they could never have any of that. So, interesting. I went ahead and I asked some other people who eat raw food, do they have anything special about soap, and I found out that many of our raw food teachers don't use soap or shampoo anymore. I don't use any shampoo already for 6 years. Well, a woman in British Columbia, she taught me how to make raw shampoo. It's flaxseed and water. You take half and half flaxseed and water, you soak it overnight, and then in the morning blend it in the blender, and that's your shampoo. It even makes little bubbles. It cleans the hair really, really fine. And it's the best shaving cream. Of course, it spoils in 3 days. Знаешь, когда жужжишь, мне очень слышно сильно, когда блендером. And well, you just have to take to make another one, but it only takes 30 seconds to make. Okay. Well, people trying to use soap to kill bacteria every day. Well, do you want me to tell you the most ironic thing? That many of the soaps don't have anything in them that actually kills bacteria. If you read the ingredients of the soap, very often, and I'm really thankful for that, there are some soaps have just 3 ingredients. Vegetable glycerin, that doesn't kill bacteria, beeswax, doesn't kill bacteria, and aromatic part. Something aromatic, some essential oils, don't kill bacteria. So, but they make lots of bubbles. Well, I think that's something that saves our skin and ability to protect. Does it make sense? When you come into the restaurant with your children and the waitress in front of you is spraying Windex on the table, and then let it air dry, do you appreciate that? That she is hoping to get more tips from you. She's so making it clean. Clean in our understanding today means lots of chemicals. I don't like it. Once I had a chance to watch how they wash popcorns in a movie theater. And in that movie theater, they didn't even take popcorn leftovers from it. They just moved it with a piece of plastic to one side, sprayed it with toilet cleaner, and then wiped it with lots of paper towels to make it sparkling clean, then moved it back and did the same with the second half. That's modern civilized society. No bacteria. Every bottle of Lysol says there instantly kills 99.9% bacteria. Is this the enemy? We need to really rethink that. The enemy is chemicals. Chemicals will destroy us. For sure it will destroy our children and our unborn children. But bacteria will stay. We will die, but bacteria will survive. God created it so powerful and so able to mutate that it will continue. And so I really like bacteria. I think bacteria is not its fault. It's we created this artificial fear. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Well, I know that it's theoretical, and I don't expect you to overnight stop using soap. First, you maybe need to go on raw food and kind of get your intestines cleaner, your inside cleaner, and then maybe you will feel more safe. But you could do some steps. At least you could begin to use more biodegradable soaps in your household. Okay, and baking soda and hydrogen peroxide for washing some of your vegetables, or just not too many chemicals. Okay, thank you. When we went on raw food, my children, they were the first one who applied intuition to figure out what to eat. I was just going kind of from my head, actually directly from my head. And then Sergei was the first one who would go around bravely and grab different fruits that I didn't even know names of, and he would bring them home, and some of them later will figure out that you have to cook to eat because they've come from some different country and nobody knows what their name is. But then some of them tasted pretty good, and pretty soon he found out that he loves mangoes. Those are expensive, and he would make me buy them to him every day. And then I started to buy them by the case, but I saw that he would eat the whole thing with the skin, and then he will lick the bone from the pit. And then he figured out he loves blueberries. So he would always ask for mangoes and blueberries. He became mango boy. And then Valia, she didn't care for mangoes. She didn't care for blueberries. She fell in love with figs. All kinds of figs, also very expensive figs and olives. This 8-year-old girl would have on a windowsill gallon jars of cured olives. She would cure them with lye, with sea salt, with baking soda. She constantly dehydrate them and soak them again. And she was able to eat olives right from under the tree without even being cured. And she said, oh, they're so good, they're not bitter at all. We were so lucky as a family because after 3 months on being raw, we met Dr. Bernard Jensen. He invited my husband to give him massages, and so we could communicate with him just as much as we wanted. And Bernard Jensen, he already died at the age of 94. He was a genius nutritionist, very noble man. I just loved that man so much. And I asked him, first time we met, I said, Dr. Jensen, can you tell me what should I feed my son, Sergei, who was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes? And Dr. Jensen looked in his books, and he pretty quickly said, well, for sure you have to give him more mangoes because mangoes restore the pancreas. And also feed him as much blueberries as you can because blueberries naturally reduce blood sugar. I said, Dr. Jensen, I'm amazed. That's what he's always asking for. He said, well, that's normal. He's just following his natural craving. And then I said, Dr. Jensen, what should I feed my daughter who was diagnosed with asthma and allergies? He said, oh, if she has asthma, give her more figs. Figs restore their respiratory system. They nurture respiratory system. And also feed her lots of olives because they help to liquefy and take out the... I said, Dr. Jensen, that's what she's always asking for. And he said, well, she's following her natural cravings. And then Dr. Jensen looked at me and he said, my dear, tell me, what do you crave? I said, Dr. Jensen, I don't eat what I crave. I eat what's on sale. So I usually eat bananas. And Dr. Jensen was the first one in my life who told me, this is so wrong. You cannot do that. Your body is your temple. Imagine you build in a beautiful temple or even just a house, and your contractor is coming to you and he says, Victoria, I need 42 by 4s and they have to be 12 feet long. Can you tell him, hey, the windows are on sale? Or how about copper conduits instead? He will not build a house. He'll build a crooked house for you. So I started to keep this in mind, and when I went back to the store, I was standing there and I thought, what do I want? And my body proudly answered, coffee and donuts. Well, and then it took me years before I really figured out what to eat. It took me years because I was not properly educated when I was a child. Now I know that whatever is addictive, which is cooked food, is all addictive, and we'll talk about this in our second part of the day today. But cooked food, I know, is addictive, and whatever is addictive wants to come back. It pushes out everything else. If we have $2 and we could buy donut or just a croissant, or we could buy mango, we would always choose croissant because it will satisfy addiction. Mango will not satisfy addiction. You cannot be addicted to mangoes or cucumbers or bananas. So the first rule is to keep addiction out of the picture. If you stay 100% raw, then addiction is out of the picture. And in magic time, 2 months, usually it's 60 days, when we stop feeling craving for addiction, for addictive substance, we begin to crave from the frame of raw food. We suddenly begin to crave things that are legal to eat on raw food diet. And I've seen people who begin to crave very interesting things, weird things sometimes, like dandelions and cilantro and some kind of roots. However, very often people don't know what they crave. And most often people don't know what they crave. They just are suffering from this craving and they don't have no idea what they want. Did it ever happen to you? That you crave something? Our brain is complicated. It has analytical part, and it also has a reactive brain, which is like on a level of impulses, level of instincts, like reflexes. So this reactive brain memorized that the food comes from the fridge. And when you crave something, and you cannot figure out what you want, so this reactive brain sends you the urge to go and check in the fridge. Well, that's where food comes from, and then we begin to fall, just like dogs, when you feed them from the same shelf, they keep barking on that shelf. So we keep going to the fridge and open, and we're searching and searching for something there. We don't know what. If you stop and say, hey, what do you search for? You don't know. As if you don't know what is there, as if you were not the one who put it there. Our children do the same thing. And we tell them, hey, stop defrosting the fridge. Go play, you just ate, you're not hungry. But they keep going and just looking for something. Have you noticed that? We have not been properly educated, introduced to the foods. If we were educated properly, then our parents will begin to introduce the best foods to us, the whole variety, just when our teeth are well developed, which is age of 3 and 4. They will begin to introduce to us 12 or more kinds of seeds, including pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, poppy seeds, different seeds, quinoa and stuff, and 18 different kinds of nuts, not only almonds and walnuts, but hazelnuts, Brazil nuts, and macadamia, all kinds of nuts, 200 or more different vegetables, and 300 or more different fruits. Unfortunately, we introduced to our children 200 different candy, 25 kinds of cereal, and 15 kinds of bubble gum, and 3 kinds of pizza or more, but not the right things. So how do we introduce those things to our children? We take, for example, little Elaine was 3 years old, and mother comes to her and says, Elaine, give me your little palm. Yeah. And I put in her palm 5 pumpkin seeds, and they're raw, and I say, hey baby, eat them, chew them thoroughly, and they're not roasted and salted, they're raw, and I prefer that Elaine stays hungry at that time. She was hungry. And then she will chew those pumpkin seeds, and what will happen? Her brain will process the information. Hey, we got very high quality zinc from that source. And in her memory, in her basic memory, there will be this connection. Pumpkin seeds, zinc. And then she will never have bristle nails in her whole life. Whenever she'll need zinc, she'll look at her green wallpaper and it'll look like pumpkins to her. She'll go to the store and from the corner of her eye she'll see that something is flashing at her. Oh, what is that in the corner? Oh, pumpkin seeds. Oh, I would love some pumpkin seeds. That will be completely intuitive. And they will say, well, it's not on sale. Maybe you wait a month. She said, no, I want it now, no matter what it costs. And then you would always know exactly what you need to eat. That's how animals introduce the food to the cubs, to the little ones in the wilderness. At the proper time, when they're hungry, they introduce different variety. When you will have all this rainbow of different elements available and memory of it in your head, then you can survive anywhere in the world. You can go to one country, to another, Africa, India, you can go north, you can go to Iceland, you'll find what to eat everywhere. We started to do this later. Like my children, they did it when they were 8 and 9, and I started to do it when I was already in my 40s. And it took me years, maybe 2-3 years, before I was able to tell exactly what I need to eat. Today I know exactly what I need. Like yesterday I craved 2 kinds of sprouts, sunflower sprouts and buckwheat sprouts. And I was so lucky when I came to Super Sprouts yesterday, because I just put away all the shame and I just told to the owner, I say, I would like some sprouts because I've just been craving them for 2 days. And they gave me sprouts, and on the way back home I was munching them and they were delicious. And I always know exactly what I want. When I want strawberries, I will go and I get myself strawberries. And another thing I noticed, if I eat what I crave, I eat a lot less. If I crave raspberries, I'll eat this box of raspberries, and that will satisfy me for a day. If I eat what I'm not craving, I'll eat and eat and eat and eat, and still I'll feel hungry, not satisfied. And the same with my husband. And I noticed that we all crave different things. For example, Sergey, he loves bean sprout mix. He would eat it like every other day, almost around the year. It's something he needs there, he can use there. He could just eat it plain. He doesn't put anything on it. He just puts them and then he says, oh, why is that so good? I don't like bean sprouts. You can pay me money and say eat, and I won't eat them. Valia, she doesn't love bean sprouts much. You look at him like kind of, he makes it look so tasty, but she'll try them. No. She eats something else. She likes bitter stuff. Like I like bitter stuff. She likes endive and escarole and frizzy. When you will introduce yourself to 100 different vegetables, you'll know what I'm talking about. Or radicchio is another bitter. And that serves us. I will tell you one story. When 2 winters ago, Sergey broke his clavicle. Of course, I was teaching 600 miles away in Seattle. And he landed on his clavicle on a marble, sharp rock covered with puffy snow, crack, and he just was, and his shoulder suddenly became here. And he said the first thing he wanted, he said, suddenly my lips became so dry and I wanted wheatgrass juice. Well, he never particularly liked that drink. He knew that it's good for him, and he tried it, and he was even growing wheatgrass, but he never would just go for it. And this moment, he dreamed about wheatgrass juice. He said, I suddenly felt like I could just drink like a big coffee mug of it. And the first thing he did when he was taken home, he sent Valia to the store. He said, take all our petty cash and go to the local health store and buy, like, here's a quarter jar, just as much as you could buy for that. And then he take all the pulp also. And when she brought it home, do you know what he did? He was squishing it in his mouth, and he said, oh, this is so sweet, this is so good. He drank it all, and he put it on his wand, and he just put all this pulp in there. The next thing he craved was sesame milk. Interesting that he didn't want anything else. He completely didn't want to eat. He just wanted to drink, and then he wanted to drink sesame milk. Valya was complaining to me. She said, he's been exploiting me. He made me to make him a pitcher of sesame milk every couple hours, and he was just drinking it like crazy. When I returned home in 2 days, I was horrified by the big ball he developed on his clavicle. And I thought, it's a tumor. And I took him to the doctor, to emergency. And it was the same doctor who took him in 2 days ago. And the doctor said, oh wow, what a miraculous healing's going on. There's a medical doctor said that. I said, what do you mean healing? Look at this, it's like an orange size. It's the size of an orange. He said, that's a natural cast that body creates. He says that usually it's the size of a tennis ball. It's a small ping pong ball. That's calcification. It happens temporarily, and after maybe 2 or 3 months, then it dissolves completely. That's how nature heals this casts, broken bones. Because there are some parts of our body we couldn't put casts on, so clavicle is one of them. And he said, I see that he developed such a big one in 2 days. He says, it's unbelievable. And then when he was just taken by emergency, they told him, by ambulance, they told him that he will have to wear braces for 6 months, that he will have to forget about snowboarding for this winter, he won't be able to take shower for like 4 to 6 weeks, he won't be able to move his arms for 12 weeks, and they told him he'll have to take painkillers. He didn't do any of that. In 4 weeks, he was swinging on a rope in Hawaii when we were doing our next class. In 4 weeks. So this cast, it was because he was craving calcium. Sesame milk has lots of calcium. The doctor also says that usually when people have broken bones, they lose teeth because the calcium is drawn from different bones to the sick part of the body where the healing is going on. And because he was craving wheatgrass juice and sesame milk for several days, he had plenty of calcium, and none of his bones suffered from leaking calcium. So isn't it wonderful? Wouldn't we all want to have that kind of health insurance? I want to remind you and emphasize that our body never makes mistakes. We've been programmed to believe that we have to manage our body, we have to order what to do, we have to take charge of the body. I don't believe so. I think body is miraculous. It has a very high intellect, and it has wisdom, and it never makes mistakes. If you don't believe me, let's make an example. I quickly run around and poke everybody in everybody's left eye with my finger, and we'll see which eyelid will blink, left or right. And we'll see if it could be possible. Can you imagine that I'll poke in the right eye and the left eye will blink? Can that be possible? No. The correct eyelid will blink without you even thinking about this. How does the body know? Can you answer that question? How does the body know? It knows everything it needs to know. We think that we have to do something to the body. We should respect it. It lived on this planet for so many millions of years. It knows everything the best. The only thing we could do is we could cooperate or we could go against it. Which one would you like? Which one would you choose? Do you want to cooperate with your body? So do it. Cooperate with your body. And when you feel tired, rest. When you feel sleepy, sleep. When you feel thirsty, drink. When you feel full, stop eating. When your body feels like walking and stretching, walk. When your feet are in pain from high heels, throw those high heels away, recycle them. And so on and so forth. Cooperate with your body. And Try to figure out what your body likes, what it doesn't like. Does your body like makeup on your face? Does your body likes the eyeglasses? Does your body likes everything you do? Thomas Quackenbush, he made an experiment in Florida. He took 100 volunteers and he said 50 people took dark glasses on, 50 didn't, and he placed them on the shore, on the beach, and he was measuring what kind of a sunburn they will have. Those people who were wearing dark glasses had much more sunburn than those who didn't. And then he started to make research, and he found out that 99% of all the receptors that received the information about the density of the sun located around eyes. So when we cover those receptors, we send an incorrect message to our brain saying, hey, there's a twilight, relax. And when we don't, then these receptors become active, and then they send the impulse to our hormonal system and say, hey, we need to do some protection from sunburn. Yet we all think we're so smart by putting dark glasses on. Then when we keep those dark glasses on, we begin to lack vitamin D. Tom Quackenbush, in his book, Learning to See, he states that we absorb most of vitamin D by this part of our body. And if it's always covered with glasses, either clear glasses or dark glasses, because clear glasses also have UV protection in them, we begin to develop lack of vitamin D. What is the sign of lack of vitamin D? Is irritability by the sunshine. When you have to squint, that means you already lack vitamin D, roughly. And then when you squint, then you want to wear more dark glasses, and then you're trapped in a vicious circle. I remember how I was always irritated by bright light or snow or sunshine, and then I would always have lines here. And then now, when I learned this from Tom Quackenbush, I threw away all the dark glasses we had in my family, and I stopped wearing them no matter where I go. Whether I go to the equator or whether I go to the snow country, I don't wear dark glasses. And I don't have any more lines because I'm not irritated anymore by the sun. Now he also teaches about yawning, how important it is to yawn. He says when we're yawning, what happens is the bulb of the air goes up and it pushes on the pituitary gland and it squeezes some hormone with tears in our eyes that protects our vision. When we suppress the yawning, we make our vision poorer. Everything that body does, it does so perfect. We think we're so smart and we constantly interfere with the body. We don't let it be healthy. We don't let our body to have good vision, good hearing. The hearing. When we live in big city, the body adjusts to the noise and it becomes about 30% deaf from cars. Because cars are very noisy, but we don't notice how noisy they are because we have about 30% deafness when we live in a big city. If you ever spend 2 months in the woods and you will gain 100% hearing, and then you will come to the car. When we lived for 2 months on the trail, and then we needed to go to the post office to pick up one of our mail drops that we sent to ourselves on the trail with the supplies, we asked a man to give us a ride, and when he turned on the truck, all 4 of us started to run away from the truck with the yelling. And the man thought there's a bomb or something, and he started to run away. And then he said, what's wrong? And we said, your car is so loud. We've never heard such a loud car. And then later we were just laughing because our hearing restored, and this car was scary. It was so stressful. And then we also were now in 2 months of not the speed seemed much faster than it was, and he was driving barely 15-20 miles, and we just said, slower, slower, don't go that far. We were all having almost heart attack from him speeding. Because in the forest, in 2 months, we completely became normal. So we constantly live in this world, and our body adjusted to all of this radiation, pollution, electromagnetic waves, and stress, and yelling, and you name it. Glasses, makeup, chemicals, so many things. So and we have to pay for every adjustment. We have to pay with our lifespan and health. Well, and the biggest of all is eating cooked food. So what my main message to you is that our body never makes mistakes, remember that. And if it doesn't behave how you would like it to behave, it means that you don't understand what's going on. But it doesn't mean that the body is stupid and it's just defective, or it's just genes bad or something. If you were born without that problem, then probably you can recover. At least whatever, 80% you can recover. Okay? And now I would like to talk about sleep. Because we could go to such a great extent and we could change our whole lifestyle dramatically and become raw, and still wouldn't feel good. So I want to talk to you how by just improving your sleeping conditions, you can dramatically improve your health. Whoever created us, Creator, was very, very, very genius. He predicted that we would try to abuse our body as much as we can. So he predicted that we would take drugs and alcohol and smoke and create stress and just plainly abuse our body. So he created a magical curse, which is sleep. He said, whatever you're doing forever, you will be cursed to sleep, to lay unconscious without being able to move for 8 hours every day for the rest of your life. You cannot smoke when you sleep, you cannot overeat when you sleep, you cannot drink when you sleep, you cannot take drugs, you cannot watch TV, you cannot do anything. You have to sleep every day. And why did he do that? Because he cared for us. He said, no matter what you do in the daytime, when you sleep, you will heal. I will enable your body to heal you, to heal itself like the best surgeon in the world. And so when we sleep in, we're healing. And if you sleep in properly, then you could almost completely recover from whatever you do in the daytime. But do we sleep properly? I found that we don't. Well, number one, our body is vibrating with a certain frequency, which is about 12 megahertz per minute, 12 megahertz per second, which is it's a very, very slow, it's love. It's from David Icke. I read it from David Icke. The same frequency, trees, the nature, animals, 12 megahertz. That's why when we hug the trees, we slowly begin to vibrate with the same frequency and we come down. When we're in stress, it's 40. When we're stressed, and usually when we act at work or in traffic, it's 40. When we watch TV, instantly 40. Then you feel unsafe and you want to protect yourself. You feel like scared. Anybody could do anything, harm to me. But when it's 12, you feel one with everybody, you relax, you don't expect anybody to jump and do something to you. When you sleep, it of course has to be 12 in order for you to heal. Do you understand that? That's when body could reach homeostasis, this natural balance when everything becomes healing and normal. And here is, we put this alarm clock next to our head, which is vibrating with 250 megahertz. And do we realize we have to remember that our body is not over right here. It has this energy, and the whole field is vibrating with 12 megahertz. And if we have this alarm clock right next, electrical alarm clock right next to the head, which is vibrating like very, very fast, does it let your body heal? No, it destroys the whole healing. How many of you have a alarm clock next to your head? Honestly, thank you, bravely, wonderful. And some people don't have time, they're so busy, they don't have time to turn off the computer in the bedroom. How many of you have that? Computer in your bedroom, and a music station, that TV that has it has minimum 6 meters. And if it's on, if you plug it off, that's fine. But if it's on, you just were watching and you fell asleep, and it's still it's quiet, but it's making you vibrate differently. And there could be the wall here. There could be a wall, and here's kitchen, and maybe neighbor's kitchen, and there's microwave in the kitchen, which is another 6 meters. And you don't know, but it's like 650 megahertz. It's very high. So you need to come home and research in your bedroom and what's on the other side of the wall, what's going on, that you really don't have any electrical features working when you're sleeping. That's number one. That's easy to do. Okay, number two, we need to have fresh air. When God created Earth, there were 55% of oxygen in the air. According to Elizabeth Baker, 55% of the air was oxygen. How much do we have today? 12 to 19. It's depending where you live, in the city, in the country. In the bedroom, it is 6. Do you know why? 6% of oxygen in the bedroom? Because we're very, very busy and we don't have time to open the window. And for 8 hours or 9 hours or 10 hours, we breathe in the same air, in and out, and finally, do you understand that when there is lack of oxygen in the body, then normal cells transform into cancer cells? And do you understand when there is abundance of oxygen, then cancer cells, they die and the body grows more normal cells? Oxygen is directly connected to our well-being and not to having cancer. Even Rockefeller knew that in 1900 and in 1800. So oxygen is very important. When I learned that about oxygen, when I read that book, I just started, I said, Igor, what can we do about this? And he said, I'm thinking about also. I'm so lucky we're just the same people with him. So we decided to build some structure, and he built something between gazebo and shed outside. And in Oregon, we have 6 months of raining. It just has opening under the roof and a big window and a big door. And since then, whole family, we sleep outside. And we don't have no electricity in that. And my sleep improved right away. It's wonderful. We try, whenever we travel, we try to sleep outside. Day before yesterday, we were sleeping at Lorena's house outside, and then it started to mist in the morning. We just pulled the tarp over our heads, and we were just sleeping inside of this den, Igor and I. Okay, number 3. Don't eat right before you go to bed, because your digestive organs, they do 2 big jobs, digestion and evacuation. They cannot do those 2 in the same time. They do digestion first and then evacuation second, and both of them take several hours, especially if you eat something heavy like nuts, or if you eat potato or meat or any of the cooked food. It takes much longer to digest. For example, you eat something at 10 o'clock in the evening that takes to digest 4 to 6 hours. Then at 2 or 3 in the morning, your body begins to evacuate, and then so your organs don't have a chance to rest. Maybe they didn't even finish evacuating this to the lower parts of the intestines by the time you wake up. Then you will wake up not rested because you didn't really rest, and your face will be swollen and you will have heavy head. So try to eat something light before you go to bed, and eat it enough time before so it digests it before you go to bed. Like if you want to eat some fruits at 6 o'clock, that's good, and then they'll be digested by 9. Number 4, you need to sleep at night. The graveyard shift is really deadly. Do you call it this in Canada, graveyard shifts? Even if they pay 100 times more, they're still very deadly, because all our organs, they work certain time of the day or certain time of the night, certain time. For example, I only remember that pancreas is the organ that pumps adrenaline for us to function. The adrenals, they shut off at 11 p.m. and they stay closed until 1. That is why at 11 p.m. approximately, no matter what you do, you begin to feel so sleepy. Your eyes just close. Even if you're driving or reading, your body really telling you, cooperate with it. It's telling you, hey, now I need to sleep. I think the best message that I have is that the body never makes mistakes. I would like you to become a believer, every one of you. Believe in nature, in God, in your body, that it's really a holy temple and it has its own wisdom and intellect. I was trying hard to deliver that message. The next message, my message that I think is very important, is that you can and you better be intuitive instead of trying to rationalize everything, because you can think science knows everything and I should do what science tells. Let's see, science says that it's good to pour nitrates and pesticides in the soil. It is scientifically approved method. Do you agree with that method? No. So you're here anti-scientific. Science says it's a good thing to put immunization in children. Do you agree with that? No. So science says chemotherapy is the best solution for cancer. Should we go and continue rationalize? I'm telling you that science doesn't know everything today. We keep discovering new elements in human body that we didn't know, and we probably don't know a lot of it today yet. I'm trying to convince you to be more intuitive, and I believe you could do it. But the most important message that I could give to you is the message about 12 steps to raw food, because I believe that cooked food is addiction, and I'm going to go into that. But in order to go there, I would like to ask you, please relax. I need to feel that communication, because I will have to literally undress in front of you mentally, and it's not easy to go naked in front of people when they sit in tension. So relax and let me feel that. Your smiles are very helpful because there are so many of you, and I would like to be in touch with every single pair of eyes, every soul here, because my heart is pounding. It's a very hard psychological program that we're going into. Okay, good. Let's start. I believe that cooked food is addictive because my life led me into that. I was teaching about raw food for 6 long years. And I think I did a very good job. I think my classes were interesting. I got lots of very, very excellent responses from people. But nobody went on raw food. I had wonderful response, but 0 results. 0 success. People did not go on raw food. They told me they understood that raw food is the solution, but they told me they would love to go raw, but nobody went raw. Less than 2% of my students were still raw after 30 days. Less than 2%. And 0 after Christmas and Thanksgiving. 0. And I was doing it for 6 years, trying to apply different methods. I was trying to divide my classes into 10-week breaks, and every week I will commute, if it takes 300 miles or 500 miles every week, to the same destination to teach the class. I was very committed just to make it possible for people to stay raw. And in between I'll call them in the middle of the week and I'll ask them, so what did you have for lunch today? I was like a police at a certain time. And it didn't work. And then I was trying to make my classes entertaining, and they were very entertaining, and it didn't work. And I was trying to make people meet each other together for 2 months and make food together, and it didn't work. Nothing worked. And only when my friend took me to AA meeting, it finally got to me that cooked food is an addiction. And then I started to make research, and I found out that cooked food is an addiction. And then I have created this program that I called 12 Steps to Raw Foods. And when I started to exercise that program, then I started to have really good results. I would go everywhere, different states, different parts of the world, and I would teach 12 steps to raw food, and people will begin to stay on raw food. Literally, they will begin to survive on raw food. Even the husbands and wives are eating cooked food. They started to be raw. And I think that this is my spiritual mission, this is my way, this is my path, and I'm sticking to that. Today I know that cooked food is addictive on 4 levels. I will briefly repeat it. I went into details yesterday in introductory class, but some of you didn't come, so I'm going to briefly repeat that. Cooked food is addictive on chemical level because all carbohydrates, when they cooked, turn chemically into sucrose, into white sugar. And white sugar is very addictive substance. Everybody knows that. You can read the book Sugar Blues, and you will see there proof beyond any doubts that white sugar is addictive. So when we eat cooked carbohydrates, it looks like it's brown rice. It looks like it's baked squash, organic squash. It has different texture, but if you will really look in a huge microscope, electronic microscope, you will see that the structure of that chemical structure is sucrose, white sugar. Okay, that is why all international cuisines are based on cooked carbohydrates. Okay, so that's just one level, chemical level of addiction to cooked food. The next one is the biological level, the chemical, biological, mental, and spiritual. So the second one is biological. We were all already been raw fooders in our lifetime when we were just born, because our mother was feeding us raw breast milk. She did not steam it. She did not pasteurize it. In fact, if you would drink pasteurized, you wouldn't be as healthy. So you already were on raw food in your life. And some people testified yesterday that they've been on just breast milk for a year or 2. So you already been raw fooders for a year and 2 in your life, straight, 100% raw fooders with no problem. And then your pediatrician told your mother that you need to begin to feed your baby cooked food. And your mother bought some colorful bottle with 18 months of life shelf and put you on a special chair and put you in your bib, and your father was there with the camera, remember? And then she said, open your mouth, baby. And you opened your mouth. But as soon as the cooked food touched your tongue, your body said no. The body recognized the harmful taste of cooked food in there, and the body said, oh no, it will take you a long time to get rid of that havoc. You'll never be the same. Don't do that. And so the baby did this, right? And then mother said, okay, father, hold the baby. And then they forced it into you. And then you spit it out. And they did it again. You did it again. That's what babies do when they fed cooked food, first time in their life. But then mother was persistent, and you were hooked on cooked food. And since then, it became part of your life. You cannot imagine living without it, and it's really very hard to make that step. So that's biological level of addiction to cooked food. And I want to remind you that the good news is that if you only stay for 2 months raw, 100%, your body is capable of flipping back. And your body will actually produce only juices that are needed for raw food diet, which is much less. According to Dr. Zalmanov, who published the book Sacred Wisdom of Human Body, when we eat 3 cooked meals a day, our body produces 2 gallons of digestive juices per day. When we eat raw food, it's somewhere roughly around 2 cups, 2 gallons, 2 cups, huge difference. To produce 2 gallons, it takes about 70 to 80% of our entire energy. So whenever you stay 2 months on raw food, your body flips back to become a raw food body, and then you produce less digestive juices. How many of you have noticed that you produce less juices, that you don't salivate, that you don't have no growling anymore? How many of you? Raise your hand. Look around. See, there's several people. I'm not lying. I'm not making it up. It's true. Okay, and then the next level is mental level of addiction to cooked food. Because we live in a stressful world. We have lots of stress every day. And we were not educated how to handle the stress. Nobody ever told you when you were a child, maybe some exceptions, but nobody told you, hey, whenever you have stress, go for a walk. And just go for a walk. Most people said, well, you cry, baby, here is a lollipop for you. Oh, you feel bitter, let me buy you some ice cream. That's what we were told, that food is comforting. And so majority of our food stopped being nutritious. It's not important anymore. It's very important that it is comforting. So we now eat for comfort, not for nutrition. And it's way more important because our life is so stressful. And if you go in the supermarket and see how much nutritious food and how much comforting, most of it is comforting. I would say 90% is comforting and only 10% is nutritious. And of course chocolate is not nutritious, not at all. It's very comforting. And cake is not nutritious, it's comforting. And popcorn is not nutritious, it's comforting. And so lots of food is comforting, very comforting. The more comforting, the less nutritious. And so the best way to handle the stress is to go for a walk. And then the second thing you could do, you could just drink some water. Because whenever we go for a walk, our muscles produce some positive hormones, including some endorphins. And then we feel better. These endorphins counteract the negative emotion, negative hormones that when we have negative emotions, stress. So then we begin to feel better. And everybody knows that. You all experience that. When you're walking, you always feel better. Even if you don't like to walk, even if you're physically not fit, after walk you always feel better, feel emotionally better. And finally, okay, chemical, biological, mental, and then spiritual addiction to cooked food. Because we are all spiritual beings. You are all spiritual beings. Every single one of you is not just a robot who is mechanically moving. You have this something in you that is the most important thing, spiritual being. And as a spiritual being, we have spiritual tasks. But we also live in the material world. And when we live in material and in spiritual at the same time, material world is very demanding. We have created very demanding material world. Is there anybody who doesn't have to make a living here? Is there anybody who doesn't make any payments? Is there anybody who doesn't pay car insurance? Is there anybody who doesn't have to do certain things every single day, whether you want it or not? So, because we have to, we push the spiritual thing aside. Well, it could wait. It could wait. I have to pay my debts. That could wait. Well, it's waiting there already for 30 or 40 years. And because of that, we have developed spiritual pain. That's the way of spiritual self letting know that it's waiting. It's still waiting. We develop spiritual pain. That spiritual pain is not like physical pain, but it's much worse. It makes people commit suicide. It makes people feel depressed and take antidepressants. And that makes us feel so unhappy and so bored and so empty and feel such a grief. Because it's very, very important. And so that grief is so unbearable that we would like to have a break. We're searching for some pleasures. When we follow our spiritual mission, we don't look for pleasures because our life is just plain happiness. But when we don't, when our life is really shallow, then we're looking for pleasures. Are we looking for pleasures? What are pleasures? And what is the difference between pleasure and happiness? When you buy on yourself a new dress, is it a pleasure or happiness? Some people think it's happiness, but it's actually pleasure. And when you buy yourself a new expensive car, is it a pleasure or happiness? And in Russia, they all believe it's happiness. What do you think? What is it? It's just a pleasure. When you're eating good food, delicious food, what is that? Happiness? Pleasure. So what is happiness? Happiness is when you are fulfilling your spiritual self, when you're connected to your inner being. That's happiness, and that's the feeling. It doesn't go anywhere away. Actually, happiness fills you with energy, and it gives you, and it doesn't take any hormones from your body. It doesn't waste anything. Whenever you experience pleasure, it's wasting your hormones. It's draining your system. And in order to eat, you need to drain some hormones. In order to experience high, you need to drain some hormones. And people who use pleasures all the time, like, some people have so much money, they could buy any pleasures. They become very depressed because they drain their positive hormones. They lack hormones. So pleasures are really harmful. No wonder all masters were staying away from pleasures. They were trying to live the life with little pleasures so they will be closer to happiness. That's two things. Some people think that they could substitute happiness with more pleasures. They think the more pleasures they have, the closer they to happiness, but actually they're further and further away. So the most accessible, the most available, the most inexpensive pleasure is cooked food. And it does knock you down for a few minutes. For 49 cents you buy a bag of chips at any convenience store. And you eat them and your brain becomes foggy for a couple minutes and you're having a break from your spiritual pain. And we want it to last. So we go again and again and again. We eat enough so it lasts for several hours. And that's the hardest level of addiction to cooked food, the spiritual level. Okay, and that's why we will dedicate 4 last steps to the spiritual addiction to cooked food. I found out that, in fact, I read about this in a big book of alcoholics, Alcoholic Anonymous, that if people don't find a spiritual mission, if they get rid of one addiction, another addiction will instantly come in. They'll begin to do something else because they cannot live with the hole, spiritual hole in their heart, and without addiction. Addiction helps them to cope. Addiction to cooked food, I believe, is the hardest of all addictions. Several people already, professionals, specialists, psychologists, told me that cooked food, Cook Food Anonymous, 12 Steps to Raw Food, is their program of the 21st century. Because they say when people go raw 100%, they simultaneously quit smoking, drinking, drugs, and any other abuse of the body. Because that is the hardest, that kind of includes all the rest of addictions in it. How many of you know that when you go raw you cannot smoke? How many of you heard that? Nobody knew, you know. That you cannot smoke, you just cannot, you're unable to smoke. And you cannot drink alcohol, you just stop, it doesn't work. How many of you noticed that? Thank you, see? That's how my husband quit drinking. We came from Russia, he was drinking wine. I had to hide it in the house, I know. But he just, after 6 months being raw, he says, well, I forgot about drinking. I said, what do you mean you forgot? I thought you just do it on purpose, you just decided to be healthy. He said, no, I forgot. I didn't even think about it. And then it was so weird to celebrate New Year's Eve and not even have a champagne. When my mother, who had already cancer, I called her and she says, I'm drinking champagne in your health, like it's in Russia, it's impossible not to drink champagne for the New Year's Eve. And we didn't really care. It was the first time in our life. Okay? My friend says, I'm quitting to smoke. I said, are you quitting to eat cooked food? He said, no. I said, do you know that if you quit eating cooked food, you'll quit smoke automatically? He said, I do know that. I said, so why don't? He said, but it's harder to quit eating cooked food than to quit smoking. So I'll just do one at a time. Okay. Well, this is a very radical idea that cooked food is addictive. To me it is so obvious, and to so many people it is so obvious. To everybody who tried to stay 100% raw, it is obvious that cooked food is addictive. But to majority of the world it is very radical idea. And I don't blame you if you feel resistance inside, and I'll try to work with that. Can I ask you my 3 questions? Some people didn't hear my 3 questions. Have you ever overeaten in your life? Yes. Did you like how you feel? No. Can you promise me right now you'll never do it again? No. What does it tell you? That there's something you would like to, but you cannot promise. So who makes decision for you what to eat? Is it you or your body, your brain, your addiction? So who is making decision? Who is in charge of your food decision, making decision what to eat? Are you making it and you just, no problem, you just do it what you want? Or something happens that you really go around and you know you shouldn't take that chocolate, but it looks so good and it's free. Somebody's treating you, or you know you shouldn't have any more of those burritos and you're not really hungry, but they smell so good. They smell so good. Oh, this time and next time I won't eat them anymore. Heard that thought before? I would like to invite you to be very brave and share with everybody those stories that people even think that they could be ashamed of. But there's really nothing to be ashamed of. When we will all understand that everybody goes through the same process, you will have no shame anymore ever about that. But can you share with us the stories when you were hiding what you were eating from others, hiding really seriously? Please, and I have here mic, and you'll have to speak in the mic so we could hear. And please, anybody brave? Yes, can you quickly send the mic to that lady? And you have to almost kiss that mic like this. Otherwise it wouldn't do anything. Can you tell your name, first name?
Yeah, I'm Glenda. And the big problem I had was chocolate bars. And if I had to go to the post office, and that was at Shoppers Drug Mart, and you have to pass by, naturally they put them right at the checkout. Or the dollar store was worse, because then it's 2 for $1 and they won't let you buy one. You got to buy 2. And I said, I don't want to. You have to buy 2, but I'll eat them. That's your problem. You have to buy 2. I would eat 2, but I'd hide the wrappers so my husband wouldn't know that I had any chocolate bars.
Thank you so much for your honesty. Please, next. Let me tell you the story that happened to the lady who told me last weekend. She says that she has been a raw foodist for 2 months. And her husband made fun of her, and he said, oh, one day you'll just begin to eat muffins. And she said, no, I feel so good. But then she started to eat muffins. But she didn't want her husband to know. So she would go to another side of town, to the bakery, and she would go inside the bakery, and she'll eat it there quickly so nobody could see her. And then there was a rainy day, and she had dark raincoat, and she had crumbles on her raincoat, and she didn't notice. So she came home, and her husband looked at her, and he said, oh, you had a muffin. And she said, no, I didn't, and she became red. And he said, how about crumbles on your raincoat? And then she said, oh, yeah, I did have a muffin. So, can you tell me anything like that? Please? See, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a normal behavior. It's just a sign of addiction, but we all have that. Well, is there anybody in this room who didn't find themselves in any relationship to any of this, whatever we're saying? Somebody who says, well, if I decide, I could do anything you want. You could do anything if you decide?
Yeah, but I'm in denial.
Well, thank you so much. Okay. So now we all see that there is some kind of this tricky power, this negative power, this energy that makes us do something we don't want. Do you see that? That's something we do that we regret later. We regret so many times that we even gave up. We don't try anymore. So many people already tried to quit eating chocolate so many times that we quit trying. Well, it's getting boring and irritating to try because I know I'll give up again. How many of you had that experience? Or how many of you tried to quit eating something that you already decided not to try anymore? Thank you for your honesty. Thank you. There are so many of us. Wonderful. So let's think today, let's take a chance. Let's imagine, let's fantasize that you will get a special miraculous chance to actually do what you want, and there will be no that power again. You'll be actually able to do what you want, what you just decide, what you dream of. What would it be? What would you want? What would you want to be? Would you want to be free of any of those addictions? Can anybody express how you feel? What would you want to be? In other words, I'd like to hear from you, if consciously you choose, will you choose to be raw? I don't ask you to give me a swear that, I will be raw. I'm just asking, if you would have a chance to be raw, would you take that chance? Yes. Raise your hands. Would you take that chance? So are you consciously making that decision? Are you maybe under influence of some substance? Making this decision, and maybe you hypnotized? Are you really present? You find you're doing it consciously and sincerely, not under pressure from anybody? So you choosing, actually you would like to choose to be raw? You would love to be raw. If it's easy, then you'd love to be raw? That's what you want? Is it your true decision? Is it your true wish? Okay? Then I'd like you to write on your green or yellow card 3 main reasons why you want to be raw. Why? Why is that? Can I ask somebody brave to share with us 3 personal reasons why you want to be raw? Or even 1 reason? Anybody wants to share why you want to be raw? Why you want to be raw?
I'd like to be raw because I've heard of these wonderful, the way in which you gain energy, you feel a whole lot better. And I just find as we get older and older, we just don't always feel as well. And that would be really big to me, to start feeling. I hear people say that they feel 10, 20 years younger. Like, I'd like to go for that.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else wants to share? Yes, your name first, please.
My name is Alida, and I believe it will bring me more in tune and connected with my children.
Thank you. Good reason to go raw. Okay, so we figured out so far that cooked food addiction is a real thing, that we do have problems managing our food habits because of that addiction. And then we figured out that we really, in reality, we would love to be raw if we knew that it's possible. And now the 3rd step will be finding, okay, step number 1, getting out of denial. Step number 2, clearly making decision that I want to be raw. Step number 3, to find that power in this reality, in this world, that could counteract this negative power of addiction. And we already tried to find this power inside of us when we decided. Have you ever decided to quit eating something? Have you ever decided to quit eating something? And then you figure out it didn't work. Because we couldn't find this power inside of ourselves. Our brain betrayed us. It was like a prostitute. Whenever you show him a piece of chocolate, it forgets what the word that is given. So we now want to find that power outside. And we have here 125 friends who are willing to help and support you. So now I would like you to turn front row, first row goes, turn back to the 2nd row, and 3rd row, turn back to the 4th, and so forth, and meet your neighbors, and talk to each other, give your name to each other, and talk, and maybe you'll become sponsors of each other. You'll become raw food sponsors. I would like everybody tonight get a sponsor. I would want everybody walk away tonight with a sponsor. And if you already found somebody who you feel comfortable be sponsored with, vice versa, they're sponsored, he's your sponsor. Then you could go ahead and write on the back of your green card their cell phone number or home number. But if you didn't, let's continue. You could just look around and see, maybe you see somewhere where you don't shy, when you feel comfortable calling each other. You want to find somebody who has similar interests, similar illness, similar something. You don't have to be neighbors. You could live in a different country. I'm sponsored for one lady from Pennsylvania. She calls me twice a year. She's a raw food teacher. Everybody sometimes have a moment of weakness.
Okay, and then I'll teach you how to be a good sponsor. Okay, so please right now find yourself somebody sponsor us. Do you know what sponsor needs to do? Let me explain you what sponsor needs to do. I want to ask you, for 2 months, every time you think about cooked food, you call your sponsor, and sponsor will help you to stop thinking about cooked food. So for 2 months, if you would decide to go longer, you could do it longer, but usually it's only necessary within the first week or so. If you'll be able to conquer all your temptations with the help of your sponsor during the first week, you'll know how to treat it in the future, unless there's some unusual circumstance will come. Then it will be very rarely, but you will need to call your sponsor. You know why it works? Because your brain will betray you, but your sponsor, he won't betray you. Your sponsor already promised you to be dedicated to your decision. I want to remind you a story of Odysseus. He's a famous adventurist and sailor. He was sailing through Adriatic Sea, and there were the sirens on one island. And when the sirens will begin to sing, and anybody will see them, the person will fall in love with them and follow, and then this person will die, will never come back. So Odysseus, he was famous, he was king, and he wanted to see these sirens, but he didn't want to die. So he asked his sailors to tie him to the ship. So they tied him to the very front of the ship. And then he ordered them all to close their eyes, close their ears, and just, not to untie him no matter what happens. And when he heard and saw the sirens, he started to beg and order and yell at the sailors, "Untie me! Just disregard my previous order. I want to go after them." But they didn't do that. And he was all bleeding because he was trying to get away from these ties. And after they passed this Sirens Island, he said, "Thank you. You saved my life. I'm the only living person who heard the sirens but didn't die." So basically your sponsor is the person there. It's like anchor for you. Somebody who will stay sober no matter what and will be talking you from eating that piece of cooked food, who will always remind you of benefits of raw food, and this person will keep reminding you that you were the one who made the decision to stick to raw. And let's go through one traditional way of talking. For example, I'm walking in my office, and I've been 3 days raw, and my boss is offering me candy there. And so I took a candy and I brought it to my desk, and I just put it in and this candy really doesn't let me work. It's sitting there and it's magnetizing me, hypnotizing me. So I'm calling my sponsor saying, "You know what? My boss just came from England, and he brought this McCartney special candy that I'll never have a chance to try. And I think that I'm capable of just eating that candy and continuing my raw food diet. But because I promised that I'll call you, I'm calling you. So what do you say?" And so what does sponsor say? Sponsor first says, "Close the desk and just don't look at the candy, so just it's out of your sight. And can I ask you, how long have you been raw?" And I say, "Well, I've been raw 2.5 days. So how do you feel?" "Oh, I feel so good." Oh, sponsors, you need to focus attention on positive side. So you always want to emphasize, "So how do you feel?" And when they say good, you say, "Oh, really? Oh, how wonderful." You kind of let them talk about that, okay? And those who the other side, you just keep saying, "Oh, yeah, I feel so good. It was so wonderful. I was so proud of myself. I was so happy that I was raw for 2.5 days. My headaches is gone. I don't take any painkillers." And then the sponsor is asking over the phone, "So do you have your card on you?" I say, "Yeah, I do have my card on me." "So what's the first number there?" "Oh, it says, well, I have this illness. I have these horrible allergies that don't let me exist. So how is your allergy during this 2.5 days?" "Oh, fantastic. My allergies are just completely almost gone. I don't even take any more medicine, and it's just wonderful." Now, do you realize that this chocolate
McCartney chocolate could completely jeopardize your whole being so well, doing so fine. Do you remember what Victoria said in the class, that if you will just try once, you would want to try again? Well, hey, audience, do you understand that when somebody already said something positive, so positive, and then we begin to speak about a piece of chocolate, that sounds kind of ridiculous? Do you understand that? So when you bring this and make this positive emphasis, and then you just suddenly ask about, so how about that piece of chocolate? You will already see that really it's your brain made it like big. It's really small. It's really, what it's going to do to you? It's going to put you down. All your efforts, would you like that? Okay, what's second on your card? Oh, I really don't want my children to take care of me like I did took care of my parents. That's an important one. Is it still important to you? Oh yes, it's so important to me. So do you understand that the chocolate is going to kind of create a big barrier for that? It's going to really create a problem? Yeah, I see. Now tell me, Victoria, can you do anything alternative? Oh yes, I think I would go for a walk. Oh, you know what? I could go across the street to Noah's and drink some juice, or maybe some banana strawberry smoothie. Or I could run home really quick and, I have in the freezer some chocolate truffles there. I'll just eat them instead. Well, you always could come up with an alternative. I'll ask my boss, give me a hug. How about that? And I give back him this candy. Oh, you know what? I have this cute secretary next door. I'll just give it to her. Because she's 18. She doesn't care about, diets. She'll just eat it. Well, come up with an alternative. So do you understand the idea? Okay, now I'd like to have 2 volunteers here. Somebody who have a sponsor. Okay, let me choose somebody intuitively. Okay, I'd like to choose you, please. You will be the one who is calling, and you will be their sponsor over the phone. Come here, you too, okay? Okay. And you will be speaking in this mic. This is your phone.
All right.
And this will be your phone. Do you know each other's name? You have to speak in the bowl.
Marilyn?
Lisa. No, you just keep it like this, yeah. Okay, you call in her, and you describe the situation that could in reality happen in your life. What would be a challenge? So you just call about the challenge, and you always have to kiss it.
Yes, okay.
Okay, right. You call her.
Okay, ring, ring.
Yes, hello, Lighthouse, may I help you?
I'm sorry? Who are you?
Lighthouse. Lisa speaking.
Oh, hello, Lisa. Okay, this is Marilyn, and I'm calling her because I've had a problem.
Yeah.
Lisa, I'm at the office this afternoon, and they're celebrating somebody's birthday, and I'm telling you, this cake is exactly the cake that I like to eat. So, and I'm really tempted. You know something? It can't be that bad just to have a little piece, right?
Well, did you have a good lunch?
Yes.
How did you feel?
Great.
Okay, first ask her how long she's been on raw food.
Okay, how long have you been on raw food?
A week.
Wow. How do you feel now?
I'm feeling better, for sure.
Yeah, better than last week.
Yes.
Much better.
Yes.
Like to be much better tonight or tomorrow?
She's good.
Yes.
So what should we do now? What's the problem now? What is the situation? What do you want to do?
You know, I was just thinking though, Lisa, really, to have a little piece of this, and then I can go right back on this thing, okay? I just want this
little piece of this and a little piece of that, then a little piece of what?
Yes. Do you have your card on you?
Huh?
Do you have your card on you?
Do you have your card on you?
Card, green card?
Yes.
The card that you wrote at
Right
your
next to me,
session,
yes, at my
right?
desk.
What did you write on the first line?
Oh my goodness. Okay, that I want to feel better.
Okay, so what do you want to do about that? Want to feel better? You did something about it, and what you would plan to do about it more? To eat a little bit of this and a little bit of that?
See?
She's going to keep it up, so I might as well acquiesce.
So can you ask about alternative?
Yeah, what would you like to do to make you feel good now, that to make you forget about that little piece of cake? Okay, what would be
Maybe
good
a cup
for
of
you?
coffee.
Wow! Another alternative, Mary. Another alternative. I'm merciful. Come on.
Pick
Give
up.
me another one.
Okay.
Can you go?
Well, I could go out for a quick walk. I love going out for walks, like maybe while
Good. Is there a nice little place where you can contemplate the sky and the green trees?
Good sponsor.
Yes.
Will you
Dedicated.
be my sponsor, Lisa?
I'll be glad. So I think you have overcome, right?
So
All right,
what is-
wait.
Yes, I'm going for a walk. Yes.
Great. I'm very
You tell
happy.
her she's welcome to call you anytime.
Okay, and yes, and you she won't want to call me.
No.
Anyway, Lisa, you can call me anytime.
I'll be glad to
because
call
then
you.
I'll be strong, eh?
All right, together.
Thank you, Lisa.
God bless you. Bye.
Thank you very much. So, did you get an idea how it works? Okay, if you don't have a sponsor, find one. I would like you to turn to your sponsor and play the situation right now, like we did on the stage. I would like you to play it. Okay, don't forget to use the green card, and remember to keep on the positive side, because if you really came here with intention to learn how to stay raw, that is a very important step. And if you're going to do this, if you're going to use it, if you're going to break through your shyness and being modest, and if you really do that, it almost guarantees to you that you're going to stay. It's going to make it much easier. It's something that helps. It's your anchor outside that will keep you floating in raw food. If you will just decide, well, I'm strong enough, if I decide I'm going to do willpower, I've never met even one person who was able to do it just by willpower alone. Never even met who was able to do it long time enough. And sooner or later, something happens, some stress. Okay, so I really encourage you to use your sponsorships. It's like you already members of CFA, Cook Food Anonymous, so you got a sponsor. If you don't like to use your personal sponsor, and if you can afford it, you can hire a professional psychologist to do that for you. They'll charge you about, I don't know, $60, $70 an hour, and you tell them, I want to be able to call you anytime, and you just talk me from eating cooked food, and they'll do it for you. You just keep paying, they'll do it for you professionally. You can do that too, another option. But now you got free sponsor for each other. You have it. The next step is how to learn to make raw food delicious. Well, Igor is making their table that they will bring in, and I'll be showing you how to make food deliciously. I want to assure you that you can make food very delicious. I personally stopped telling people my food is raw 6 years ago. And it all started with catering one raw wedding. When we just came to Ashland, and I didn't have a job, and I really, really needed some cash. All we had is our backpacks, and in the storage we had the machinery. And then somebody called and said, I heard you're a good chef. I said, sure. And they didn't tell me raw chef. I said, can you cater for a wedding? I said, sure. And I felt it would be unethical for me to even think about making cooked wedding, cooked catering. So I decided I'm going to make them raw catering, and it will be a challenge for me, but I thought, well, we'll see what will happen. And so I made a 3-tier wedding cake, and I made beautiful finger foods, and I made like a pig. The pate was like a pig, like a fried pig, and it was very funny. And it had lots of cucumbers around it and sunflower in the middle. And so we just made lots of food, beautiful sundaes and beautiful smoothies and lots of candies. And when they came, they were just very, very excited about how colorful was the table. It was very gorgeous. And everybody started reception, and I do, and they were doing everything. And then, maybe an hour later, I was already washing dishes in the kitchen. We rented a cafeteria for that, and then they sent a child in the kitchen, and the child said they want a chef out. And I thought, uh-oh. I hope they don't ask for money. I already spent the money. And I came out, and they look at me, just like you now, and they say, can you tell us what's in the food? And I said, what's special about this food? It's so different. Well, it's good. And I thought, oh. But they say it's so different. Is it Russian food? They said, what kind of herb did you put in all the dishes?
And I was thinking, if I say it's raw food, they'll panic because they think, oh, salmonella, meat. So I just thought, what do? I say, come into the kitchen. And I showed them how I just made this garden burger. And I showed them how I made this candy. And they forgot about the bride and the groom. And they took pieces of napkins and they started to write on somebody's back. Wait a minute, what did you just put there? How much did you just put nuts there? What kind of equipment is that? Where can I learn about that? They were not health seekers. They were just regular people. They never ever read any health article in their life. But they loved how they felt. And they liked how it tasted. And they were very interested. And from that wedding, I had a big class in Ashland. And they said, can you teach my wife how to make this food? I want to eat this food all the time. Because the food was delicious. And if the food is delicious, who would say anything against? Like, this gentleman is afraid that on his Thanksgiving the food won't be as competitive as it could be on cooked food. Well, it could be. Just put more ginger there, more lemon juice, more garlic, more stuff, more different tastes, more flavors. Make it delicious. And I'm sure you have recipes already. Okay, so you absolutely can make food delicious. Also, in your household, don't start introducing raw food to your household with wheatgrass juice and energy soup. Learn when you learn to make something more palatable, because people sometimes don't care if it looks like your blood and it's like really full of magnesium or calcium. In your household, they want it to be, first of all, comforting and delicious and feeling safe to eat, not like something like atomic. For example, one simple recipe is a smoothie is 1 orange and 1 banana. Of course, you peel them first, and you just blend orange first and then put banana in there. Banana could be fresh, could be frozen. And that is delicious smoothie, out of this world, to live for, delicious. Now, it's very important how you serve it. Don't pour that smoothie in an old coffee mug which says Grandma loves you with broken handle. You go to garage sale and buy for 25 cents some nice clear glasses, and you pour your smoothie in a nice glass, put some colorful straw and a colorful fruit on the side, and don't call it raw food. Say dessert, say celebration, special occasion, hey kids, come here in the kitchen. And when they try it, and they say, Mom, do you have more? Are there any seconds? Say, oh, this is so good. Then you could whisper raw food. Let them know that raw food is something so wonderful, that it always ends so fast and everybody wants it. And do you know how to become really good raw food chef? I can tell you the secret right away. I actually went around and asked many raw food chefs who are famous how they became raw chefs, and they all told me the same story. One day, they appeared to be without any recipes in the kitchen and without even all the ingredients, and they just had to, there's no choice, had to make this dish. And they didn't even have all the ingredients, and they didn't have recipe. So they brainstormed and made it. And then it was so easy, they were so surprised. It was so easy to make raw food, delicious and in any texture, that since then they never used even one recipe in their life. They use recipes as guidance. So if I would be a good teacher, I would lock you in your kitchen without no mercy, without any recipes, and with just some ingredients. I say, until you make soup, savory potato, and cookie dough, I'm not letting you out. And then wait and wait and wait, and when you're crying and then you stop crying and then you begin to make this food, and you make soup and taste, wow, it's not bad. And then you make savory potato and you say, wow, it works. And then you make cookie dough, which is only 2 ingredients. in something, crust for the cake or candy, just 2 ingredients. How could it be difficult if it's just 2 ingredients? It's nuts and dried fruits. Just blend them together. That's all. That's your raw candy, and you change their flavors by choosing different nuts or different dried fruits, and that makes different candy for every day. You can stuff your fridge with those candies, so you always could run to there and grab one and eat that. And there's so much of raw food today that you could make. My friend even created pink salmon out of raw food. One lady said, well, if you come up with the pink salmon made from veggies for me, then I could live on raw food. But this is the only thing I miss from the non-vegan, non-raw food. So my friend peeled baby aloe vera and soaked it in carrot juice with dulse for 3 days. It became pink, it became fishy. Dulse is a sea vegetables, and it had the same texture, and it tasted just like pink salmon. You just have to be creative. There are all kinds of textures in the raw world, so you could do anything. Unfortunately, the resistance to raw food has been created by raw fooders, not by other people who eat cooked food. Because we raw fooders, we're too pushy sometimes. We like to put pressure. We like to criticize people and advise them to go on raw food. How would you like if somebody will tell you what to do? If somebody say, hey, you need to go to different church. Hey, you're too skinny, you need to start jogging. Hey, you too something else, you need to do that and that. How do you feel? Can we name me 4 emotions?
Insulted.
Insulted, yeah. How else? Angry. Hurt. One woman in, resentful, one woman in LA said, I just want to kill that person. So that's how we do. We just come from the raw food class to our household and say, hey, I'm a raw foodist here. Don't eat that crap in front of me anymore. And then they begin to feel resentful and hurt and just don't feel like they're lower human beings, like they're treated not equally. So I think on the other hand, if we will be what raw fooders are, if we will be loving and hugging and smiling and joking and energized and healthy, raw fooders, that's the way they are. And never arguing and always communicating, non-violently communicating. Who can say, no, I don't like it? Which husband will say, well, I don't want my wife being non-violent communicating, I want back my violent wife? No. Which wife will say, hey, I want my husband to have red face and shaky hands again and headache every other day? No. We love when our loved ones are smiling and hugging and loving and not hurting. We like it. Who would say no to that? Let's just agree that we wouldn't insult other people. I heard many times this phrase, don't tell me you have headache. If you would listen to me a long time ago, you would never have headache. Have you heard this one? That is very insulting to say that. Or something something like, when people call other people's food junk food and garbage food, this is also insulting. Because if I'll tell you, hey, you have junk clothes on you, it's insulting, right? If I say, hey, you have garbage piano in your house, that's insulting. I say, hey, your Mercedes is junk. You will say, well, I'm insulted. I'm going to call you on a duel. But why do we say that? Well, you still eating that junk? Well, that's like acceptable. I think it's not acceptable, okay? So if we want to live in peace with the cooked world, we have to, first of all, be accepting. We shouldn't go into what's called codependency. When we're trying to change the world instead of changing ourselves, that's called codependency. You can change only one person in the world. No matter how hard you try, only one person in the world. Who is that? Yourself. But if you will concentrate on yourself, we can change the world. Do you agree? And you have unlimited power over that person. So concentrate on yourself. Is there anything you can improve in your own self? Can you improve, or are you already perfect? Can you work on yourself more?
Everybody are asking you. Can you work on yourself? So do you have energy to continue? Okay, keep working. And let's not work in somebody else's garden. Let's work in our own, okay? And then it's going to work. How to say no, that's a big one. Many people quit eating cooked food because they didn't know what to do. How many of you quit eating raw food because you didn't know how to say no to your loved ones? Raise your hands up higher, higher, higher. Thank you, thank you. Okay, imagine your mother has made you a pie. Imagine your ex-mother-in-law made you an apple pie. And she brought it to you and it looks really good. And she said, hey, Elaine, I want to give it to you. I made it specially for you. I went shopping, I bought the best organic ingredients, and I made it specially for you because I remember how you loved it. Well, do you think saying no to her will really hurt her feelings? What do you think? Okay. Most likely, it depends how you say. So, let's make analysis. What is her goal? Is her goal actually your digesting of the cake? That the cake really actually gets into your system and you digest it and then you go to the bathroom? That's your goal? That's her goal? What's her goal? Her goal is to make you happy, right? Her goal actually is to show you that no matter what happened between you and somebody, she still loves you. Is there any way for you to acknowledge that without even eating the cake? How can we acknowledge that other person, how can we acknowledge other person's love and attention? Let's try to say 3 sentences to that mother-in-law that will acknowledge her effort. Can you come up with something? For example, Mother, I'm so moved. Try not to just say thank you. Try to explain, to describe your feelings, your emotions that you're going through when you see her giving you that cake. Emotions. Describe it to her so she pictures how you feel and she will feel happy. Say, I'm so moved. When I think about you going and buying it, especially for me in an organic store, I'm so deeply touched. I see how you love me. Can I please give you a hug? Can you please create at least 3 sentences? Let me ask several people. Can you come up with 3 sentences that you say to your mother-in-law who made you, ex-mother-in-law, who made you apple pie that you used to love? Don't say that you're not going to eat it. Just give me 3 sentences because we'll continue after that. I really want to be honest and touching. I want you to say something that will touch her heart and she will feel that she didn't waste her time, that she really broke through. And the ice is broken and you really feel very thankful to her. So what should you say? Can you please come up with 3 sentences? Any? Yes?
I'm so glad that you still think of me, even though I am not with your son.
That's very touching. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else, please? See, that's the problem. We only know one thing. We just take it and eat it. Does it guarantee that she will understand and believe you that you love her? No. So we need to learn how to speak out how we feel. So I want you to practice to say, to acknowledge that we love what you your boss is giving you candy. You want to say that you appreciate his attention, okay? Your neighbor is bringing you something. You want to say, oh, really, I'm so thankful to you. I feel like I'm honored. I feel like I'm special. I feel like I'm loved. We only practice the first part. First part is acknowledgement. The second part is saying firmly no, and the third part is coming with alternative. But we only practice in the first part because that's how it's supposed to sound all together. Oh, Mother, I'm so happy. I'm so moved. I'm so touched that you went to so much trouble just for me. Like I'm so important to you. You went to the store and you bought all these things and you prepared this delicious, how do you call this, a beautiful cake, and it looks so good.
It's wonderful. I'm absolutely honored. But I don't eat cooked food anymore. How about I come earlier tonight home and you and I will get together in the kitchen and I'll bring ingredients and we'll make raw apple pie that I have recipe. How about that? Can she ever say no? And why would she say no? But the first thing you have to really emphasize, the first part. The second you say firmly with a smile and quickly, and very quickly go to alternative. So while she's offering you cake, you think, okay? Can somebody practice, let's say, what's your favorite food?
Chocolate mousse.
Chocolate mousse, okay. Dear Judy, you have been selected to taste chocolate mousse at our chocolate factory for a year, and you'll be paid millions of dollars. Okay, what do you say? Okay, remember 3 things. No joking. Honestly, what do you say? 3 sentences minimum to acknowledge.
Wonderful opportunity, but I...
No. 3 sentences. You have to emphasize minimum 3 sentences. It's not enough.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you for thinking of me, and I'm moved and touched.
The honor.
How could you choose me? It's amazing. Just keep going.
Yeah, how could you choose me? I really appreciate that.
And then firmly with a smile quickly. But
I'm no longer eating chocolate.
How about you offer it to my friend Cindy? Or how about I will be we're preparing some raw chocolate and we'll taste it for your factory. There are lots of raw food now in town. You be creative, okay? See, that is their formula that will never offend anybody. And you could say as many sentences, good job, in the beginning as possible, and that will enhance your entire life, not only the raw food part of your life. Because sometimes we need to say no. Do you remember how we teach our children? Just say no. Okay, we just tell them, just say no. We put it on their pencils and then the posters. We say, just say no. Do we teach them how to say no? Do they see example how we say no when we always say yes to whatever we want? So sometimes we have to say no. I would like here some volunteer who has some other weakness in the cooked food, like you really love to eat some cooked food and you would like to stop eating that. Is there anybody like that? What is your name?
Amy.
Amy, and what is your food?
Sushi.
Sushi? Mm-hmm. Where do you buy it?
Sushi Rock up at Yonge and Eglinton.
Did you hear that?
It was Sushi Rock up at Yonge and Eglinton, and about 2 to 3 weeks ago I went and I picked out on 2 spicy tuna rolls and I crashed like you wouldn't believe after, because I had been totally raw during the week, usually for a couple of weeks, and I was out. Like a light, like somebody had to put a blanket on me and everything. I was so tired.
Okay, so stay here. I would like you to challenge Amy with different offers that's hard to deny. Offer her free membership in the sushi club, offer her cruise with sushi, offer her anything, offer her free, the coupons for a month, say whatever, lots of sushi, that offer her position there, offer her to inherit sushi bar, anything that's hard to deny. And don't joke, don't ever say, yeah. That's a serious thing we're doing here. Your job is to say 3 things. Long thank you and appreciation, and then brief and very positive, I don't eat sushi anymore, and then alternative. And if you want to take a peek in the kitchen for a second, it will give you an idea what I mean. Look there. See?
Ooh.
Sushi.
Sushi roll.
Okay, so please come up with your questions louder, and don't forget to call her Amy, so she feels it personal. Okay, please.
I was going to say, because you've been such a long-standing customer of Sushi Rock, so loyal, coming here every week, we'd love to give you a lifelong pass to have sushi delivered straight to your doorstep once a week.
Okay, let's see if Amy will figure out what to answer to that.
Bring
Oh my God, you're kidding. I'm so pleased. I can't believe that I've been offered this opportunity. And about 3 weeks ago, I probably would have taken you up on it. I'm really, really pleased. But unfortunately, today I've decided... Fortunately, I've decided to not eat sushi anymore.
Don't say I decided. Say it's like it's a fact. I don't eat sushi anymore, period.
I no longer eat sushi.
How about
I set up the table and teach you how to make raw sushi, totally raw. Or,
if you're really so loyal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you say? What do you say?
That sounds like a really interesting option.
Okay, very good. Oh, somebody else wanted to? Yeah, you're not there yet. Just a moment. We need to create the patch. Please, somebody, please. Yes, Erica?
Amy, I would like to offer you, or I'm offering you, a 2-week flight and stay in Hawaii on the wonderful island of Kauai, and you can have wonderful fresh sushi.
Sushi in Hawaii.
Sushi in Hawaii, luau's, and wonderful dancing and music.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing, amazing opportunity, and I'm very thankful that you're giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, that's 2, you need to say minimum 3.
Oh,
I'm
so moved, touched, pleased. I can't express how thankful I am that you're offering
good
this to
enough.
me. However, I no longer eat sushi, but I would love to come to Hawaii and show you how to make.
She's getting better and better. Okay, thank you, Erica. What do you say? What do you say?
Well, I have heard so much about the raw food diet. I would really like to learn. I think Hawaii would be a perfect place.
Sounds good.
And so one more. She needs one more. Really creative one. Yes.
No, I always thought sushi is about fish.
But there's rice in it, and that's cooked, and it's full of sugar.
Okay, so please. She's good, yeah. One more. Anybody creative person here? One person, please. Yes.
Hi, Amy. A bunch of us I'm Amy's friend here, and a bunch of us are going out tonight for sushi, and I'd like if you come along. It's my birthday, and we're celebrating my 30th birthday.
Who's paying?
And actually, yeah, my boyfriend's paying for everybody, so it's like all you can eat sushi.
Thank you very much, Mary. I really appreciate it. Sounds like a fantastic time, and I'm really thankful that you're inviting me to come out with all your friends. However, I no longer eat sushi rolls, but I would love to come and partake of the sushi salad, or seaweed salad, the seaweed salad, because that's totally raw.
Wonderful. Okay, now we want somebody who will play devil advocate here. Erica, come here, please. Erica, I want you to seduce Amy and say something like, come on, you're not a nun. You can allow yourself sometimes a little pleasure. You've been working so hard. You've been not eating sushi already for 2 months. Well, a little piece wouldn't hurt. Victoria is not here already. Nobody will know. And you interrupt her and say, no, but then I would feel, and you describe how you feel. I don't want to do it. A little piece will make me eat more. And you can see, come on. Life is about pleasure. Whatever you think. Yeah, okay? And I'll give you my little ball. Okay, we'll see who will win.
Now, Amy, you have come to Hawaii and you have showed us how to make live food sushi, and it's wonderful, but we just had somebody bring in fresh tuna just off the boat. It will be so wonderful. It will just melt.
With rice. With rice.
With rice and wonderful ramen.
I'm really sorry, Erica, but I really can't do that. I remember that one time when I totally crashed. I was so tired. It was awful.
But perhaps that was old tuna, and the rice had been overcooked.
But I felt so bad in the morning.
Have you ever had really raw, fresh tuna straight from the boat?
With the rice?
Fresh out of the ocean, and the rice was
organic.
Just cooked organic.
Oh, are you? No, I never had it. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I really felt bad for days afterwards. And I even took tons of enzymes, and it was still bad.
Okay, I think she wins. Okay, can you, just the last thing I wanted to do, Amy, can you describe to everybody how you feel now? Do you feel more prepared to withstand? You're willing to eat
sushi?
Well, that was really fun, actually. That was good to do, and I would really.
Do you feel like you have prepared now?
Yeah, it was really
good exercise.
It was very good.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before we will have a break, I would like you to turn to each other on your raw and practice that. And it is very important that you not just talk about dinner, about the weather, but you really do the homework. That's the homework. That's a step. It's very important that you learn how to say no. Otherwise, you cannot stay raw. Almost, okay? So please practice, every single person. Otherwise, you won't pass. Please practice. When you eat in somebody's house, you always bring with you your own food. And I've learned that I have to bring 2 plates because my plate goes first. When they put everybody's food on the table, my food, everybody wants to eat first. Even they say they don't like it. But then I have nothing else to eat, so I always bring 2 plates now. One I put right away and one when I'm beginning to eat. Well, and usually in any house there is a banana or apple or something, usually salad. And for this reason I gave you the restaurant card. Open page, is it 3 or 4? Page 4? Did you see the restaurant card? Oh, yes. Okay. What we did in Ashland, Oregon, we got together about 50 people, enthusiasts of raw food. We have many more people who eat raw food, but enthusiasts, maybe core group. And then we agreed that we'll go to copy place and order, create different colors, like pastel colors, rainbow colors, business cards with our name on one side and this text on another side. And then we have divided Ashland into sections, and we decided to go to all the restaurants with this card in 1 week. And so after manager received so many cards in 1 day, which say what that says, within a week, Mongolian barbecue started to have raw dishes only by previous order. Or Ashland Bakery and Cafe has always seed cheese and crackers, pizza by separate order. They started to have raw food menu there. They started to have raw food dishes. Now you go in Ashland restaurants, they have different raw food dishes. Can you do that here? Are you together enough to do something like that? Because they're very sensitive to the demand. If a manager would come, waitresses would come to manager and say, hey, people keep asking me for their raw food, they keep bringing those cards, they will react. They'll at least create some kind of dressing, raw dressing and a salad for you. And when you give this card to the regular chef who is making food every day, even in Chinese store, they don't have anything raw on the menu, but whatever they make comes from raw food. They just cook it. The chefs, they're so tired of the routine, they love the challenge. And they bring to me the most incredible dishes, like mounds, like a pyramid of all different colors, big, much bigger than what it costs in the menu, like $2.99. And I make sure I whisper to the waiter, I say, just tell chef I'll send him a little tip too, if he be creative. It works. Okay, did I answer your question? Good. So we could keep going. The next step would be to get additional activity or hobby. When you will go on raw food, in the fantasize you've been on raw food a couple months, you'll notice that you begin to sleep less. How many of you notice you sleep less on raw food? Anybody here? So you'll have more time. You'll have more energy. And not right away, but eventually you'll have more money too. In the beginning you'll have to spend some time on appliances, but then eventually you will be spending less because you will be eating less things. And the appliances that you buy, they will last for a lifetime. So you will be spending little. Because I eat so little, I could go and buy the best organic food for myself because I only eat 1 thing or 2 things per day. That I can afford it. I was thinking that I spend much, but when my brother came from Russia and I went and bought food for him because he didn't have no money, I was amazed how expensive is cooked food. I was just amazed how much I spent, and they will just eat it quickly and become hungry again. It's just amazing. So you will have more time, more money and more energy. I'm sure you know what to do with extra money. But more time and more energy really becomes a problem, because when people have extra time, they don't know what to do with that. In regular everyday life, our life has been created, shaped by the society in such a way that the most valuable time of your life is taken to work for some kind of corporation or some kind of a business, and then you have just little leftovers for yourself, where you could just watch TV, do your laundry and clean your house, go to church and take care of your children. And whenever in our real life we have extra time or extra day, what do? Can you honestly tell me? Thank you, we eat. Yes. Whenever we have day off, we make a special celebration, we eat. Whenever we have several hours extra, we go in the kitchen. It seems like to be the most magnifying place in our house that is really drawing our attention all the time. If you begin to eat all the time when you have extra time, you will inevitably get off raw food. So for this reason, you need to find yourself some new activities that you'll be doing in this free time, something really fun, something that's of great interest to you. When people begin to have extra energy, they don't realize that the energy that they gain is not just physical energy. This energy comes on different, multiple levels. They gain mental energy and they gain spiritual energy, and people begin to feel spacey. Have you ever heard that people on raw food begin to feel spacey? They begin to feel overwhelmed. When we're born, we come into this life with so much different kind of energy. We're equipped with energy that helps us to understand what is our spiritual mission. We have energy that helps us to see how people feel about us, the energy that helps us to love others and feel one with the whole world, the energy that helps us to sense, how do you feel about me? Do you love me? Are you honest with me? Are you suffering? Are you tortured? Or maybe you lying to me? That is all part of our mental and spiritual energy. And I don't believe we could even guess what we're supposed to do in our life if we don't have that kind of energy. We could only try logically to figure this out, but it will be all wrong. So when you begin to stay raw all the time, you begin to get this energy. And it's absolutely essential that you find out things that you can do in that time. Many of us already been dreaming of many things that are very close to what we're supposed to do. So I want to give you some ideas. How many of you have been dreaming of writing a book and never had enough time and energy and money to write? Yeah. How many of you have been dreaming to take voice lessons? How many of you have been dreaming to take dance lessons? Art lessons? How many of you have been dreaming to learn another language? How many of you have been dreaming to hike or bike or horse ride, back ride across some country, maybe across Sweden or Austria or something? How many of you were dreaming to have more time to spend with your children? With any children? How many of you wanted to volunteer somewhere? How many of you wanted to spend time doing organic garden? To meditate and do yoga? To do all kinds of exercise like Qigong, Tai Chi, martial arts? How many of you have been dreaming to buy metal detector and go to the ocean and look for collectibles? How many of you have been dreaming to take nonviolent communication course from Marshall Rosenberg whenever he's in town? How many of you were dreaming to take very interesting courses, but you never had enough time, energy, and money? When you go in raw, that's the time of your life when you could do all these things. Now I would like to ask to testify some raw fooders have been on raw food more than several weeks, that you actually have been doing some extra things that you didn't do before. Anybody wants to testify?
Ever since I am on the raw food diet, in the beginning before I taught, I found I had much more time on my hands. So I began doing art more intensely, and I spent more time journaling. Now I find I have less time because The demands are much bigger when one is teaching the raw food diet. But I do have more time to do that because I wake up at 5 o'clock and I get out of bed and I...
And your energy is not like when people come from work at 5 o'clock, they completely drained, usually on cooked food.
Yeah.
So after 5 you still have so many hours?
Yeah, I can go until 10 o'clock and I'm fine. But then I go to bed and I tell you I can sleep. And the sleep is of such a quality, it just doesn't compare.
I would suggest that if you're serious about going raw, on the way back tonight, stop by and get some from community college, some schedule of events, or take some free magazine that tells about all kind of different clubs and whatever going on here in Toronto, and look for something that really sounds very good to you, and begin to take classes like how to write and illustrate children's books. This is a very interesting class that I took, wonderful, and voice lessons. I really suggest. When I used to have retreats, I would always invite a person who will teach voice lessons to the whole group, and people never even knew that they loved to take voice lessons. And then when I asked to evaluate, then in the end they would always say that that was everybody's favorite thing in the whole retreat, this voice lesson from all the other entertainment. So please pay attention that that's a very important step. And it's easy to do, and it's very pleasant to do, and just don't miss it, okay? And I think now we are to our spiritual steps, okay? So, to follow your heart, You know, I've heard this saying, these words, follow your heart, so many times, and I never really listened to it. It didn't ever come through. And the first time I heard about this, when I asked Dr. Jensen, when I told you that when my mother was dying from bone cancer, and then her last words were, I wasted my whole life. When her phrase really dramatically moved me and my husband, and then we were thinking, we are wasting our life. I'm wasting my life. How do I supposed to live my life? And I was having so many questions, and I remember I had the question, how to make a choice in life. And I remember I asked that question Dr. Bernard Jensen. I said, how do you make choices? And he was such a sweet and sincere person, and he said, oh, that is easy. I said, to make choices easy? And he said, oh yes. I said, so how do you do that? He said, you just ask your heart, and your heart, not your brain, your heart will tell you what you need to do. Your brain might be very, very against it, but do what your heart tells and you'll never make a mistake. And somehow this time I heard him. And then I shared it with Igor, and I shared it with my children, and we discussed it, and we were all fascinated by how simplicity of that. And right next day after that, it was in San Diego area, there was a presentation. Some doctor was teaching how to do long time hikes. And then he was saying that for every 100 miles you have to eat 2 pounds of M&Ms. Otherwise you'll have too little carbohydrates and you will become too skinny. And every time you cross a little village or little town, you have to go and eat 2 gallons of ice cream. And every time you turn around in your sleep, you have to take a bite from Power Bar. Otherwise you'll just lose too much weight. The problem of losing weight is very, very big in hikers. Many hikers, 2,000 hikers attempted every year to do the hike, and only 200 finished. The rest of them, most of them, stop because they lose too much weight. And we were listening to this doctor. We started to have this excitement inside of our hearts. And I looked at Igor and I read in his eyes, we're going. And we looked at our kids and we read in his eyes, we're going too. We knew we're going on some kind of a hike. We didn't know where exactly and when. The only question I had was will it be this year, which will be like in 2 months, or next year? And then somebody else took the mic and he said how much it costs to take a hike, and he said it takes minimum $2,000 per hiker to do a hike, and we didn't have no money. In fact, we maybe had $5. We didn't have no equipment, no gear, no shoes, nothing, and no supplies. Well, the raw food community of San Diego were so excited about us going on a hike as a family on a raw food diet that they said, we'll do fundraising for you. We'll let you do the dinner and we'll just send a hat around. So from the dinner and from the hat, we got $800. We were able to buy some important gear like compasses. The date people donated us dates, second standard quality dates, middle dates, 5 dates per person per day. And I read in the book about Thailand monks that they eat 5 dates per person per day. And I thought, well, if they survive on 5 dates per day, we should be able to. At least we have minimum. So, and then some raw fooders in the Napa Valley in San Diego, they traded massage with Igor for some equipment. If you ever heard of Helene Ideals, who is the godmother of raw food of San Diego, she gave me her own sleeping bag. And so if you look at the picture in Raw Family, the very first picture at the Mexican border, where we just stand in our first day ready to go, you'll see that we all standing there bare feet. Have you noticed that? We didn't have any shoes. We couldn't afford shoes. We decided we're not going to need the big shoes like, with $500 professional shoes, plus they're so heavy. We wanted Tiva sandals, but they're $100 a pair. So we started we felt like we were just drawn to hike. We felt like we have to go. Now, the year that we've chosen was El Nino. Our brain was telling us, you're crazy. How can you go in El Nino year? It's going to be 75% rain. But we just couldn't stop. We knew we were going. Now, we were staying with our friend Wayne Shelton. We were supposed to be. We scheduled. We had schedule. And we sent the mail drops along the way according to schedule. We were supposed to leave on the 15th of April, but we left on the 3rd of April in the pouring rain under cats and dogs raining. And we said, so take us to the trail. And he said, well, you don't have to go. There are 2 more weeks, and it's raining. Guys, are you not comfortable in my house? And we said, don't ask us. And I remember how Igor said, well, we're going to get wet anyway, so who cares? Well, it doesn't make no difference. So Wayne took us on the trail and waved us goodbye, and we went in the rain, and we didn't have rainproof coats, so we were wearing garbage bags, plastic garbage bags. And so we were hiking for 2 weeks like we were dedicated to do something. We didn't know what was that, and in 2 weeks we came right in time to meet the man who was committing suicide on a hot spring. There was a man sitting in a warm tub with a razor blade right to his wrist at the moment when we appeared. And it's interesting that after that we kind of slowed down. So when we came, and Sergei was the one who found him, and we were working around campfire, and suddenly Sergei comes from the bushes with a naked man, and he says, sorry, I didn't want to scare you. And Sergei whispered to me in Russian what was happening. So when Sergei found him in this hot springs, he didn't know what to talk about. He was at that time 12 years old. He started to talk about raw food. And suddenly this man was fascinated. And so he came and he said, your son told me something about raw food. And then he told us that he got this sickness. He was very, very ill person. And he was so tired of his pain that he decided to kill himself. And also he became depressed. And then he asked us, do you think raw food could help me? And I said, I'm sure it can. It helped anybody I know so far. And he said, would you go and live with me in my house for 3 days, not far from here, and teach me everything? I'll pay you really good money for that. Well, and of course, we don't want to take it on your karma that somebody's going to kill himself. And so we said, yes, sure, we go. And we taught him how to make different things, and he took us to different health food stores. It was funny. We were just walking through the wilderness, didn't hear any cars or anything, and here somebody's taking us to this, we taught him everything. I can only tell you that he's still alive and he's feeling better than ever. He doesn't have any pain. What was that? Okay, and then we continued. And we continued on a hike, and then soon maybe another couple of weeks, I found on the trail a Ziploc bag with $60 in it. There was 20, 20, and 20. And there was nobody around to ask, hey, who's that money? So I decided it's ours. And then that night we got lost. We got in a very bad blizzard. It was a snowstorm. We were hiking up, and it was 7,000 or 8,000 feet, and it was so cold. It was snowstorm, and we lost the trail, and we were not even scared because we were so thinking about how we're going to get out of there. So I told everybody, you know, hold the compass and let's go north, and it will bring us. We're not in the middle of wilderness. We're not in Siberia. We're just on the crest. So if we go north, we should hit the trail somewhere. So. And it was like in a Hollywood movie. Of course, our north way was going through the canyon. That was unavoidable. It was a long canyon, and far away below there was rocks, and there was water, river. And so here we are sliding. We're soaking wet. Our backpacks are so heavy and full of water, and we're sliding right in that canyon, in that water, and our children are yelling like, ah! And I didn't even have fear. I remember that I really understood that they could die, we could die, and we just didn't know what's going to happen, but we had the feeling that we just have to keep moving. And we crossed that cold river, and we crossed that canyon, we climbed, we already were all bleeding and cut, and on the other side it was already dark. We crossed it, we kept going north. 3 o'clock in the morning we crossed the road, intuitively went to the left, 2 blocks, we found a lodge. I knock at the door, say, do you have room? She says, the cheapest room I have is $60. We had warm bath, and we had $2, and she was selling Washington Delicious non-organic apples for $1 a piece, and we cut 2 apples into 4 pieces. That was the most delicious fruit in my entire life. We ate it all the way. And then it was like this all the time. We would always find somebody who would just need help, who was just searching information about raw food, or dreaming to meet a raw food teacher or something. It was just an amazing journey. When we came to Ashland, there was 40 feet of snow on the trail. We couldn't even see the tops of the trees. And so we lost the trail. And here we are coming inside of Ashland, Oregon, looking for the place where we could leave and wait for 6 weeks or so when the snow will melt. And we came into Hot Springs. That's where we live now, in the Hot Springs. And at the entrance, I'm asking the man, I said, do you know if they have any position here that we could take, any job that needs to be done in exchange for us just living here in the tent for 6 weeks? And the man appeared to be the owner. He said, the only position we have is the chef in the kitchen. And I said, oh no, that wouldn't work for us. Let's come on, guys. And he says, why? You were so desperate a minute ago. I said, you don't want to know. We're on a special diet. He said, no, I insist. Tell me, I don't want to know. And I told him, we're on a raw food diet. And suddenly he said, hallelujah. I said, what's wrong? What's going on? And he said, you know what, we just opened educational center. We purchased Vitamix, blender, and Cuisinart, and Champion juicer, and new covers from Cherry Tree, and new knives, and we wanted to open a raw food restaurant, but we couldn't find any raw chef. We've been advertising in every newspaper, and all we got is a tofu dog chef. And finally we were staying, a couple days ago, in a circle with the staff, and we were praying to God, Lord, send our way some raw food chef. And I was very, very surprised, and I said, here we are, there are 4 of us. Now he looked at me closer, and we were wearing the shaded clothes that was so dear to us. We loved that shaded clothes. He said, you raw food chefs, we look like hippies. With accent. And I said, just take me to the store, let's buy ingredients, and we'll make you something raw. He took me to now my favorite Ashland Co-op, and I said this, that. He paid for everything. After 3 months in the woods, my kids were so eager to work in familiar kitchen. They knew which button to push on it and every equipment, and we made beautiful meal. We made a big pate and a big salad and soup and dessert. And then all the staff came, and his wife and his children came, and we ate this food, and they tried it, and they said, "This is raw food. I never knew it could be so good. Here's the checkbook. Here's the key. Stay as long as you want. There are $2,000 for you if you need to buy any more equipment, and if you will make good money, we'll pay you salary." My dear friends, we turned this Ashland upside down. We were so lonely in the forest. We were so missing people. And so suddenly we were now exposed to this beautiful Ashland. My children were selling banana ice cream in every corner, on every corner in that Ashland. And until now, 5 years later, everybody remembers, "Are you the one that was selling for $1 banana ice cream everywhere?" That's how we exposed to Ashland right away. We had the long line of apprentices in this raw cafe. We were making raw food all the time. We put through the account $5,000 in 6 weeks. And then when we were leaving back to the forest, we had already fully equipped kitchen with all the chefs, and they were just saying, "Please come back." And our hearts were singing, "We would like to come back." And it was like this when we finished our trail. We were eating mostly, we were foraging. We were eating 80% of our food were herbs. It was amazing how we were able intuitively to tell the poison from not from edible without no mistake. We were able to say how we interacted with animals. That was amazing. Valia met mother bear with cubs one-on-one twice. All kinds of snakes. Igor stepped on a snake twice on the same one. Like, we just had amazing experience. But when we finished the trail, we only wanted to eat so much fruits because we were eating so much grain. I think we were so alkaline. We decided we're going to take a trip to San Felipe in Mexico. We know there is a market, and we thought we'll just inexpensively could eat papayas, mangoes, and then we'll come back to Ashland, and then we'll leave there, and just do something. And so we had this van, Astra van, that had 480,000 miles on the speedometer. On it. And so this van has been driving us since my mother passed away, since our business went crushed after that, and it never broke. All the handles were broken. You can only get into Igor's seat through my door. You can only open my window, from different side. All the gauges were broken. It couldn't show the speed, how much gas in it, or anything, temperature, nothing. But it was running. And so we came, and Igor said, he bought a garage sale for $1 bike. And he said, "Okay, we'll go to San Felipe, and I'll just ride around in the bike because there are not very many roads, and I'll figure out how we can survive there because we didn't have much money." And as soon as we came to the market, this man looked at the bike, the owner of the market. He said, "Sell me the bike." Igor says, "No, I need it." He said, "You know what? My grandson has birthday, and I need the bike, and I need just like that. And if you give me the bike, you can eat any food as long as you stay here." So we stayed there for a week, and we were enjoying the best ripe mangoes and papayas and bananas and good stuff there. And a week later, we packed van to go and went to bed, and in the morning we woke up, and there's a green lake under our radiator in the morning. Empty radiator. And we're standing there, and we feel like we hiked enough already. We don't feel like hiking in that desert right now. And we're just thinking like, if we could only make it somehow, I don't know how, to the American border, so we don't have to hike through that deadly desert. And Igor decided to start, and it started. I don't know how, but it started. We all jumped in the car, and he says, "Let's go as long as it goes, and then we'll just walk the rest." And it went 120 miles. And at the border, there was a long line, and all this fencing, Mercedes and BMWs were overheated on the side, and our car was standing in line, and it didn't overheat anymore, more than it was. And I said, Igor, maybe we should turn off and see, maybe it needs some more water. He says, I'm afraid if I'll turn it off, that it will not start. And here we are sitting there saying, what are we going to do in Mexicali? Mexicali is the place, it's just like Mexico, even if it's United States. We don't know anybody there. We don't have no money. We really desperately need this car to go all the way to San Diego, where we have so many good friends. And so this made it. Another 150 miles. When it was going up the mountain, we were just sitting there, all four of us helping this car. And then we came to Escondido, and we were thinking, where should we go? Where should we go? Let's go to Mary Larson's place. Where does she live? Somewhere on Washington Avenue. Do you remember what's the crossing street? Nobody remembers. And as we go on Washington Avenue, the car died in front of her house. As we push in the car in her backyard, Mary opened the window and said, Boutenko's came! Her son appeared to be working for junkyard, and he sold the car next morning for $350. There was nothing left in that car. We decided if we ever buy another car, it has to be Astrovan. So we bought Greyhound tickets, and we're driving back. On the way out, we were supposed to do class in an empty house of Brooke Peterson, because she just moved into Florida, sold her house, and she offered this house for some raw fooders to do workshop. And calling her saying, I wouldn't be able to come because our car broke. We come home on our answer machine. I bought your car, I hope you like it, come and get it. I never met her before. I said, well, even if it's not Astrovan, I will accept it. So Igor and I drive, and we come to her house, and here's a new Astrovan in the driveway. And I said, Brooke, how did you do that? Why did you buy this car? And she said, I felt compelled. She said, I never did anything like this in my whole life. But as soon as I finished speaking with you, my old good friend called me, and her husband has a dealership, and she said, do you know any good person who needs a very good car? We just got this beautiful van, which 29,000 miles on it, only for 7,000, and it's in such a good condition, I really don't want to get anybody in it. And she just said, I just bought it. And with 0% we paid it to her in 1 year. And this car also lasted, and it's still, I still have it. I still have it. I drive it in it when I come home. Well, we just had this amazing things happening to us when we came back home. Okay, and another woman is calling. She says, oh, I need support. Her name is Elizabeth Bechtel. She says, I need support, and so I want my house to have some raw food workshops. And when we miraculously got this little trailer, we live in a trailer, okay? And we were sitting there, and we were writing this book, Raw Family. And I said, Igor, we need to get kids to write something, because they're growing up, and then people will never know about our experience. So we're sitting there writing this book, and we wrote it like in 2 weeks, you know. And then I showed several people to check mistakes, and they said it was almost perfect. So I don't know, was it channeling or what? I don't know. And then I went to local designers and printers, and I evaluated how much will it cost to publish the book. And they said $14,000. And Igor said, I don't think that kind of money could just show up. And I said, well, let's see, we have to believe. And so then we come to this Elizabeth Bechtel to do this class. And again, it was the first time we met in person. And after this class, she and I washed the dishes. It's 11 o'clock at night, everybody's gone, my husband is asleep, and suddenly she's asking me, did anybody back you up with the publishing of your book financially? I say, no. And we're washing dishes, and she's saying, do you want me to back you up? I said, sure. And she says, how much does it cost? And I say, $14,000. And she just said, she wrote me a check. And she didn't ask for any paperwork, anything. She just says, can you pay me in 2 years? I say, sure, I can. And when I brought it to my bank, my banker couldn't believe it. He said, "Where is the paperwork? What is that?" He never saw in my account more than $300. Of course, we paid her back. And if you see the book Raw Family, it's dedicated to Elizabeth Bechtel. It says, "Without you, the book wouldn't be possible." I'm not trying to tell you that I'm just living a fancy life and I have anything I want. But whatever we need comes to us. And you know why? Because we started to follow our heart. I now know, and my husband knows, and our children know, that if you found your way and if you follow your heart, universe exists. There are some things in the world that we cannot comprehend by our brain, but universe will protect you. You'll be protected, and things will happen. And I want to ask you, did it ever happen to you that you heard about some kind of a workshop or some seminar, and your heart is telling you, "Oh, I want to go," but your brain says, "Forget it, you have already so many non-finished projects, you need to take care of this and that," okay, and you didn't go. And then those who did came back and told you, "Oh, that was that," and you said, "Oh, I wish I went." Did it happen to you? Or opposite, you did go, you didn't listen to your brain, you did go, and you wasted your last money that you couldn't waste, and then at that workshop some opportunities came up. Then you actually earned more money and more things were happening there, positive. Did it happen to you? That's what I mean. Because our brain is a product of this material world. And the only connection to the spiritual universe is our heart. And whenever you do anything, whenever you have a question, if you really listen to your heart, you can answer any question. Whether it's about food, what shall I eat, what shall I do, what should I do in my life, where should I go, should I or should I not, your heart never lies. And that's very important. Another important thing, which is another new step, is to gain clarity. We were educated in our life that knowledge is power. I disagree with that. I think knowledge is not even information. Knowledge is somebody else's opinion of information, and somebody else's opinion is always distorted. Would you like to have lots of opinions in your head? And in fact, those opinions, then they sit in your head for decades and they rule your life. Somebody's opinion is that you need to eat 3 cooked meals a day. Another person's opinion is that you need to drink milk for calcium. Another opinion that you need immunization. Another opinion that you need to finish your plate because children in China starve to death, and if you finish the plate, they don't starve. And so there are so many things that we've told, and very often at my workshops, people say, "They say." I say, "Who they?" Well, professionals, specialists, experts. Well, I don't really care anymore, because my goal is to gain clarity, not knowledge. What's the difference? There's a huge difference. In fact, we accumulated too much knowledge, and this knowledge is cluttering our brain. It is cluttering our ability to channel the information. Until I was 39, I didn't know that I can channel. And I'm sure that most people don't know they can channel. Most people don't even believe it's possible. Most people think it's some kind of a fairy tales. But that is the real true way of learning, is channeling. Have you heard this song? We could all know everything without ever knowing why. Do you know this song? Did you hear that? That's about that. Once when we were traveling around the United States for 2.5 years, being homeless and unemployed, that also happened in our life, in our spiritual search. By the way, homeless means you don't have to worry about paying mortgage. And unemployed means you don't have to go to your job every morning. We were trying to take as many workshops as possible, and one of the workshops we took was in Virginia. It was about sincerity. And we would always come and we would say, "Can we help can we help you clean, do any work, but we would like to take your workshop. And we've never been said no. And that's why I never send anybody away from my workshop. So it was about sincerity. That was a breakthrough and eye-opening. They divided a group of 50 people into groups of 4, and they placed them in small rooms, and they said, you speak sincerely to each other. But they said, don't just describe events. Describe your feelings towards these events. That's a big difference. Don't just say, well, I went there, then I did this, my wife did this. No, that's not sincerity. You describe what you feel, your emotions, how you feel. And I was so shy that I was just silent there most of the time. I was still conditioned that I'm not as good as others. I was just listening. But when the workshop was over, 2.5 days later, I became brave and I told my husband, I said, Igor, can I tell you all sincerely, and you promise that you'll not stop loving me? And he said, haven't you been sincere yet? And I said, that's not what I mean. And he said, okay, whatever you want. And I started to tell him about my feelings. And he started smiling and hugging me, and he said, wow, I feel the same way. Oh, you dare to say that. I never was brave enough to say that. And then he said, I want to try to be sincere too. And I said, I didn't finish. He said, now it's my turn. Okay. And then he started to say, now I was saying, oh, honey, I love that you say that. 7 hours later, our car ran out of gas. We completely were lost. It was middle of night. We were somewhere in the middle of Pennsylvania. Then we were speaking sincerely for another 1,000 hours, and then we stopped calculating. It became our favorite thing to do. Through those conversations, we cleaned lots of the clutter, and I found most of the information that I share with people there. I found most of the information that I need to know in my life. I found all the truth about myself. I found out who I am. I became connected to it, and I see that that is my solid ground. When I'm sincere, when I can express my feelings to someone and somebody can listen without judging me, I have always solid ground under my feet. And if I don't, I become lost. For years I was thinking I'm somebody, Viktoria Boutenko, somebody immigrant from Russia, something else, which is not true. I'm a beautiful human being as everybody else. As soon as I figure out that I have lots of goodness in me, I instantly saw goodness in everybody else. I see that people sometimes don't realize how beautiful they are, and I just would like to do anything possible for people to discover that, to see that. Now, for years I believed that channeling is just somebody's tales. It's not something serious. But I want to explain you scientifically that whenever you think, you cannot think sincerely. Every thought has been edited instantly with your brain, which is a product of this society where we live. So every thought is already edited. We cannot think sincerely, but we can speak sincerely. That is why we're so afraid to speak. That is why we only learn, we rehearse. We learn to speak several sentences that make good impression about us and others. And then when it's over, when we said everything we rehearsed, there is tension and we don't know what to talk about. We talk about weather, we talk about news, and that's all. However, if you learn how to let it go and learn to be sincere, you can never stop. Have you ever been riding in a bus with somebody for 12 hours? When you don't care what people think, you'll never see them again? Sometimes they actually marry later. Because when you're sincere with somebody, you say beautiful things. Do you know when you speak sincerely, God speaks through you? That is channeling. When you speak sincerely without caring what they say, God speaks to you what you need to hear. Those who say that's what they need to hear. Sometimes we were taking notes when the other person is talking and later repeat it. When first Igor was speaking and I was taking notes, and then a week later we were just driving and it was nothing to talk about, and I just said, would you like to listen to that? And I started reading him that. He said, this this is genius. Is it Dostoevsky? I said, honey, this is you. He said, me? He said, this is wonderful. This is brilliant. Well, I think that is clarity. I got most of my information that I share in the classes from those sincere talks. And then recently I read in Everett Shostrom book that if a man doesn't have anybody to talk to sincerely, he cannot be completely sane. Everett Shostrom, professional, famous psychologist, he stated that in his book. So how to gain clarity? Decondition your brain. We are so conditioned. Find those things where you used to think something and now you don't believe it anymore. How many of you have used to think that you need to drink milk to get calcium? Okay? What if I'll give this conditioning back to you? Okay, believe it again. I have magic wand and you just have it back. What will be different? What will change? What will be different in you if you begin to believe that yes? Okay, what will happen? You will become less clear. Okay? So when you decondition, finally you will become so clear that you will not rely on authorities anymore in any decision. Do you understand what it means? Then you gain in freedom. You're becoming free. You now can make decisions for yourself, for your life. You clearly see that. You've been for 2 weeks on raw food, you felt good. And nobody professional could tell you, hey, you cannot possibly feel good. You know clearly, you see. And though you don't need anybody to tell you. What is different about you relying every decision on somebody else? Well, my finger hurts. I need to go see a finger specialist who will tell me what to do with my finger. That's when you rely on somebody else. When your finger hurts, you think, well, who been longest with that finger? Me. So I have to see what I do with this finger. And then you just kind of go inside, go in tune with your body and try to listen. And you kind of talk it through. You go to somebody you love and say, hey, let's talk about my finger. Well, it started to hurt when? It's when I fell off that rock, so maybe I hurt it. So what can I do about this? And just whatever. I'm just giving you a primitive example, but that's clarity. Clarity is much more important. It cannot be substituted with knowledge. Knowledge is addictive. Knowledge is something that keeps you dependent on somebody else's opinion. You know, my dog started to feel sick. Well, she's a very old dog. And I took her to a veterinarian doctor. And the doctor said she has heart murmur. She cannot walk anymore. She should just sleep at home. Well, for some reason, I took her to another doctor. And the other doctor said, no, her heart is fine, but she's developing arthritis. So you need to give her, and the first doctor gave her one prescription, this one gave different prescription. Well, two say different thing. I took her to third veterinarian, and he said, she has worms, and she needs to take pills from worms. The third opinion, well, I wonder if in our town we would have 12 veterinarians. What would I have to do? So how do you know your doctor that you go to is the only one that is the best? Do you understand that if you go to 10 doctors, they'll all give you 10 different opinions? And if you go for any advice for 10 different people, that all they will give you different opinion? And if people would have clarity and they buy brown sugar, then they will be able to read on the label that this is not really brown sugar. This is white sugar colored with caramel number 6 color. And until now, the most health-oriented people, when they go to Starbucks to buy coffee, they pick up with lots of knowledge. Not the pink package, not the white package, but the brown package, which says brown sugar, because they say, well, I'm healthier than others. I'm drinking coffee with the brown sugar. But it's not brown sugar. If you have clarity, you're willing to see everything how it is, and then you base your decision on the true facts, then all you care is facts. You'll be able to separate. When you read somebody's books, you can separate the true facts from opinion. Okay?
Does it make any sense to you? Well, okay. I hope that you can talk it through, and then you could figure out what exactly I mean. Well, and just besides this last food prep, I just have one step left, and which is 12-step support. Now, my dear friends, you became so special to me, my in-laws. I want you to remember with gratitude the very first person in your life who mentioned raw food to you when it really stayed. With gratitude, because we never remember that person back. And that person probably was very patient and answered some of your initial questions that you asked, maybe with some irritation. And they maybe treated you with some kind of a food that you tried and something there clicked in you. I want you to remember those people with gratitude, because now it's going to be your turn to be that person. I want you to be patient. When people will ask you those questions about where do you get your protein? Are you sure you get all the nutrients? Where do you get your calcium? All of that. How do you sprout? How do you soak? These questions you'll hear hundreds of times again and again and again. And I want you to make something delicious and treat those people with that. So I want you to pay ahead. I want you to remember your very first raw food meal that you had in your life. What was special about this food? Why did it make you think that you can do it? I want you to appreciate that, because now it's your turn to create that kind of food. And when you go to the raw food potluck, I want you to take 1 hour and $10 and make a nice plate, even if you already eat simple. Because somebody's destiny will be decided on that day. She's inviting her friend to raw food potluck because she says, hey, you have chemotherapy beginning on Monday. Come to raw food potluck. Maybe you will feel better from raw food. Maybe you can postpone this chemotherapy. And so her friend came with her, and there could be two scenarios. She tried the food, and she said, you know, that food is so bland. I don't think I could live like that. I cannot. I would go do my chemotherapy. Or she could put the food on her plate, and it's so colorful, and she tries it, and she's totally surprised. She says, wow, I can do that. Thank you for taking me here. I'm going to call my doctor and postpone and see how I could do that. And I know some raw fooders have been already on raw food for so long that they eat so simple, so they just bring to the potluck sliced bananas with toothpicks in them. I've seen it. I think it's our duty to pay back. Because once somebody introduced you to raw food, not by sliced bananas, and so we have to share, keep sharing. And then I also want you to remember your very first raw food teacher that was teaching you, because I believe that every single person in the world is a world teacher. When you becoming the best of yourself, you are the world teacher, and you already have lined up students. Can you look inside and ask yourself the sincere question, am I already the best of myself? Can I become better? If you can, become as best as you can. When you'll become good enough, your students will show up, because they already exist in the world. Your students already like blind kittens looking for you. Where is my teacher? Where is my teacher? They cannot see you yet. They're waiting when you shine brighter. And I believe that every one of you is a world teacher, and you will be teacher, and you'll be teaching lots of people good stuff. And now I want to fantasize. I want to visualize. I know how powerful is visualization. I want you to visualize that I know maybe some of you yesterday night after you ate this dinner in our class, you went home and you ate some cooked food. Maybe you wanted to do farewell.
But today you've been raw all day. Hey, congratulations. Don't spoil it. Let's fantasize that tomorrow morning you woke up, you thought, well, I should eat that bagel with cream cheese, or maybe I should give it to somebody away. And then you stayed raw through the breakfast, and then you said, well, I've been already 1.5 days almost raw. Let me have raw lunch. And then you stayed raw all the way till tomorrow. And when you had a hard time, you called your sponsor. You've been 2 days raw. That's the hardest first 2 days. And then 3, 4, 5, 2 weeks. And then, I don't want to spoil it, you decided, I'm going to stay raw now. And you became raw for the rest of your life. Well, it was not always that easy, but you stayed raw, and you experienced, you throw away your glasses, you stop dyeing your hair because it's natural, and your skin looks so young, and if you don't have partner, you got the best partner in the world. You live the life of king and queen, you sleep the best sleep, you eat the best food in the world, you follow your heart, and then when you're 120, you feel like you did a lot, you're ready to go, and then you look back and tell me this, how many people did you influence in your beautiful life, directly and indirectly? Think about your co-workers. When you keep bringing this wonderfully looking sandwich, raw sandwich, and they keep bringing the pizza, and they eventually, after 2 weeks, they ask, hey, Mary, your sandwich looks so good. Whatever you eat in there, can I ask you to give me a little bite? Because it smells so good, looks so healthy. What do you say, Mary? Sure. Sure. How about your neighbors who keep asking you to come for barbecue, and you keep bringing your own tray with you, and you keep saying, oh, thank you so much, but I would like to eat this food. And they say, is that why you have such a good color on your face? And you say, I think so. Well, do you have anything to read about this? Eventually you're going to influence them. How about your relatives who first going to be like furious? But then when they will see the doctor, and doctor will tell them, hey, woohoo, not good news. The first person they're going to talk to will be you. They say, hey, she's been on her weird diet now for so long, she must be knowing what to do. And think about the cashier in your local store. When you keep bringing 25 pounds of carrots every week, she's asking you, do you have a horse? And you say, no, I have a juicer. Oh, so maybe I should get juicer also. Do you think it will help me with my blood pressure? You say, oh, sure. And think about people who shopping in the same store. When they pretend they don't pay attention, they pretend that they don't look, but they do look. I've noticed how people, when they look in my green and red and purple cart, and then look in their boxes there, they run and quickly grab iceberg lettuce and throw on top of it. Now tell me, how many people would you influence in your life? Entire life, directly and indirectly. Think about me. What if I never spoke to Elizabeth in that line in the bank, and I would never became raw? I would die long ago. My crippled husband with my 2 orphan children will be sent back to Russia, and he would probably be dead long time ago. Those pills wouldn't last him. So, and what would happen to all of the students of mine? And those students who now make their living by teaching raw food, and their students who make living by teaching raw food. What would happen to all of these people? All this, is there any influence there? And now, tell me please, anybody here realistically brave can tell how many people will you influence in your lifetime if you will stay raw for the rest of your life? Anybody can guess? Please? Please? You can yell.
Hundreds.
Hundreds? Thousands? Millions. That's more realistic, because we talk in a lifetime, directly and indirectly. You influence your neighbor, he influences somebody else, and then now, my dear friends, let's calculate. If this group of 125 people will add together how many each of you influence, that will be several times population of the globe. Is that worth a try for you?
Yes. Yes.
I don't hear the answer. Is that worth a try, that you will influence several times population of the globe in such a beautiful way? Do we need peaceful influence in this world? And it depends on whom? On us. Well, is it worth a try? So remember about that. And I wish you to keep the spirit. And all the times when you will feel blue or down, remember how we were sitting here together when there was such a silence in the air that I could feel I could poke holes in that silence. And I don't remember names, but I remember faces. I have photographic memory on faces. And you know what? Every day I go shop here in Toronto. Yesterday and day before yesterday, I run into somebody I know. Yesterday I ran into a man, I think he's from California. And day before yesterday, I ran into another person. I always run into my students in health food stores, in juice bars, always. So 7 or 10 years from now, I run into you in a health food store, in a juice bar, and you will just look 10, 20 years younger, and I will recognize your face. I wouldn't remember probably what's your name and where you're from, but I say, hey, I know you. And you say, yeah, you're Victoria. I say, where did I meet you? You say, oh, in Toronto. We'll hug and we'll feel like relatives. In Raws, see? We become like one family. It's a raw family of the world that we're becoming part of. And some of my raw family is even closer to me than my blood relatives. Because we have so much in common. We look at the world from the same point. So please, remember that. And I wish you all the best. And I hope to see you again many times at many different events. And God bless you all.